Is this anyone's first podcast?
This would be mine.
Hey, welcome.
Okay, that means we're going to make you do all the annoying things like, swear allegiance and...
I'll get the paddle.
Welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave, and today we have a show entitled 50 Shades of Daario Naharis. We're going to be going over Daario Naharis and a few other people who are also Daario Naharis. I'm joined today from the message boards by It Rhymes with Sleek.
Hey, it rhymes with Sleek, Daario Naharis in real life.
Also by Fire and Bud.
Hey, Fire and Bud on the forums, Chance Moreland in real life.
And Blue-Eyed Queen.
Hey, this is Blue-Eyed Queen Casey on the forums. Or wait, no, that's not it.
Oh, no.
Casey in real life, Blue-Eyed Queen on the forums.
And I am Shaggydog, also known as Daario Naharis in real life.
Hey!
Does anybody want to give a shout out to anybody before we get started?
Apparently,
Shout
I
out to
have give a
Eminem's
shout out
mom.
to myself.
Shout out to
Eddie
Eminem's
Wizard.
mom. She's pretty cool.
I would like to give a shout out to Moji Osman, who listens to us on YouTube, who posted, "Oh man, another vid in under a week. I'm in heaven. Where's the donate button?" I don't think we've actually set up like a Patreon or anything like that. But if you want to start sending us bottles of booze or anything else of monetary
yes.
value, that would greatly help out our production.
Please make it whiskey.
Yes, we need that for research purposes, so that would definitely go a long, long way. So, is there something equivalent that we can set up to donate to our bar tab accounts? Because that would be pretty sweet.
You can set up
Oh
a
my God,
P.O.
that'd be
box
hilarious.
just to get filled with alcohol.
So let's get started on this, and maybe a little bit later on we're supposed to be joined by Matt Varley. I'm not sure if that's going to be Matt or Daario Naharis, so we'll find out.
Well, it's going to be Daario.
Oh, okay.
I mean, aren't we all Daario?
I mean, have you ever seen any of us together? Huh?
No.
No. But I've never
If
also...
you think you're Daario, then that's all it really requires. You just have
Yeah.
to feel it.
That's true.
I think Daario is more of a state of mind than an actual person. He's a movement.
Yeah.
He's my personal philosophy, man.
It's like Zen. Yeah.
Feel the Daario flow through you. It's like the Force.
Oh my God.
I actually, you know what? I never want to feel the Daario flowing through me. That just kind of sounds wrong.
Danny feels the Daario flowing through her.
Danny likes it. Wait, Scott, aren't we supposed to ask Chance what his favorite character is and when he started listening and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Should I get the paddle?
You get the newbie stuff. So when did you start reading the series?
Okay.
Have you ever done a reread? What's your favorite character? The first 16 numbers on your credit card, the last 3 at the end on the back, as well as the expiration
The last
date.
4 digits of your social security number.
Yeah.
Let's see. No, I started in a pretty innocuous way, like everybody else. I saw the first 2 episodes of the show and thought it was cool. My roommate had the book, and then I started it. Always been a big reader, and then devoured everything. And then a week before I finished Feast is when Dance came out, and so I got that immediately and didn't have to experience any of the wait. So that was pretty good. Besides that, I do a bunch of driving, a lot of commute, so I don't know how many times I've listened to Roy Dotrice read the books. So I think I've got 3... Oh, you're one of those people?
Oh, boy.
I'm Roy till I die.
And then after that, I would like one of these.
Oh, hey,
Fever.
Varley.
What's up?
Hey. And we are
Yeah.
now being joined by Matt Varley.
Hey. Just Matt Varley on the forums. And Daario, also Benjamin.
Also mentioned, right?
Of course.
Cool.
So, what am I interrupting?
Everything.
Just
Oh, boy.
just the new person going over how they got into the series, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, welcome, new person.
Thank you. Hi, nice to meet you. No, I think that was pretty much it. No, I just kind of devoured them and then slowly but surely got onto lurking on the Westeros forums a little bit, then on the Reddit forums a little bit, And I think just random YouTube podcasts, I think one of the playlists that starts on the side just auto-played one of the VOK podcasts one day, and that's how I found my way onto this forum.
Ooh.
The YouTube is strong.
Yes.
It is. Okay, and who's your favorite character?
Oh gosh, that's Darkstar.
Really?
I'm being 100% contentious. He's probably not my favorite, but he's the one that I have the most allegiance to.
How so?
Wow.
How do you have
Part of it is literally probably just, what's the word I'm looking for here? Everybody hates him so much that it makes, yeah, that one. Everybody hates him so much that it makes me want to like him. And because George said that he basically just did a bad job of trying to make another Red Viper, he's like, I thought people were going to like him. He was all suave. I'm like, see, he was intended to be cool. So I'm going with the author's intent.
It's kind of like
I think there's a big difference between writing a character that does cool stuff and having a whole bunch of characters say, "Oh, he's cool." You know.
Listen, when he kills Hota, everyone's going to be on board, and I'm going to be the first team captain, repping him since day one.
Wow.
Okay, cool. I guess I'll go first with the Ashara equals Quaithe theory.
Cool.
Yeah, so this kind of comes about the idea that Ashara Dayne didn't commit suicide and fled to Essos, and eventually ends up becoming Quaithe. We need to really review Daenerys' trip to Quaithe. And prior to getting there, Daenerys and the survivors who crossed the Red Wastes, they're in Vaes Taloro, and recovering from their trip across the Red Wastes, she sends out riders to scout the area. 2 return with nothing, but Jogo returns with 3 dignitaries. That's Pyat Pri, the warlock from the House of the Undying, and he ends up introducing himself in Dothraki, and Zerozohan Daxos, who introduces himself in Valyrian, and then Quaithe, who introduces herself in the Westerosi common language, and claims that the purpose for their visit is that they came seeking dragons, which Daenerys replies, "Seek no more, you found them." It's understandable, sort of, that Pyat and Zaro speak to her in Dothraki and Valyrian. You know, Daenerys looks like a Valyrian, she's in charge of a bunch of Dothraki, and she's dressed like a Dothraki. But Quaithe speaking to her in the Westerosi common tongue seems kind of odd, since they literally are half a world away from the Seven Kingdoms. So there's no real reason for Quaithe to sort of assume that Daenerys would be familiar with the Westerosi common tongue, unless she already knew that she might be familiar with that language. I mean, unless anyone else can think of another reason why Daenerys, why a stranger should assume that.
Maybe she knew who Daenerys was. I mean, when you're thinking about people who are hatching dragons, your options are pretty limited. So maybe she guessed that it was Daenerys. Or maybe she had heard about the wedding with Khal Drogo and she knew roughly what was happening.
Hashtag magic.
Yeah.
Hashtag blast candle.
I may be reaching here, but I don't know. Everybody else is speaking Valyrian and Dothraki to her. Like, to try to actually get her attention away from everybody else, she would have to kind of throw a curveball, maybe? But that's just to play devil's advocate. I'm just trying to come up with something.
I mean, the woman can walk through walls, so...
Yeah.
Like, I don't see a big language barrier there.
I think she would have thrown a huge curveball if she'd spoken like Lorathi or something. Be like, understand that.
Yeah, everyone would just be like, what?
Yeah, I mean, if Westeros was a wild guess, she could just speak in the Black Goat language.
Okay. Well, the idea being that if Quaithe is Ashara Dayne, then Ashara would know that Daenerys would be able to speak Westerosi. After all, if her and her brother are going to return to Westeros and rule, they kind of need to know the language that they're going to be ruling over the people with. And also, Daenerys, wasn't she raised for a long time in Braavos, so therefore she would know Valyrian?
Maybe.
Allegedly. If you think that she was there with a lemon tree, yeah. Too bad lemon trees don't grow in Braavos.
This is a different theory.
No. You missed that theory cast. That was the last one. So
R plus L equals D, I swear.
Daenerys goes into Quaithe, and then Quaithe warns her about the treachery that the city is actually offering. She says, "Beware the woman," and the red lacquer mask said, "Of whom? Of all. They shall come day and night to see the wonder that has been born again into the world, and when they see, they shall lust. For dragons are fire made flesh, and fire is power." If Quaithe is looking out for Daenerys, why the warning? I mean, why, if she's just a total stranger, shouldn't she absolutely not care what happens to her in the city?
Well, then you're speaking to Quaithe's larger motivations, which we really don't know. You know, maybe she's out to help Dany, maybe she's not out to help Dany, maybe she's trying to steal Dany's dragons, we don't know.
Yeah, typically in this situation, you'd only warn someone that you want to protect or maybe manipulate for your own ends. But, which is
Right.
actually what Pyatt and Zaro seem to be doing. They're making her all kinds of promises, and they've all seen the dragons. And Jorah does agree with Quaithe, but doesn't actually trust her either.
He doesn't like her,
Yeah, but who does Jorah like, really?
Danny.
Anyone?
Yeah,
that-
he likes Danny.
And that pretty much ends the list right there, doesn't it? I mean...
Yeah, that's about it.
He liked his daddy enough that he left Longclaw.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I
Good
don't-
point.
That was probably out of personal honor rather than liking his dad.
No, because, I mean,
Yeah,
personal honor, he had already sold the slave, so
Yeah, but he didn't view that as unhonorable or dishonorable at the time.
he left.
He probably thought it
Yeah.
was dishonorable, but still did it in like a guilty way. But as far as he sank, and out of all the things he sold, like we know how much money Tywin Lannister offers up for a Valyrian steel sword. The fact that he never went quite that low to pay for his wife's stuff. I mean,
There's different levels of dishonor. There's like not bowing to a lady at the right time and like killing babies. You know, there's definitely a spectrum there. So selling his dad's sword would be way more dishonorable to him than selling the slaves if he needs the money.
I guess there is kind of a they had it coming aspect to it too, where it's not like he's doing anything wrong to
The
people
slaves?
who are decent people. Well, yeah, they were poachers, weren't they?
Yeah,
I mean, he obviously knew it was
Yeah,
wrong.
pretty-
He needed to go to the Night's Watch.
Yeah, they could have.
pretty crappy crime. Killed a deer, got sold
Poaching
into slavery.
beavers.
Poaching beavers. I knew you were going to mention beavers.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, so the next time Dany really encounters Quaithe is back in the marketplace, where they see the Fire Mage performing in front of a crowd, and again Quaithe speaks to her in the common tongue of Westeros, probably to prevent others from picking up on what she's saying. But basically she tells her that, less than half a year ago the Fire Mage couldn't barely wake fire from dragonglass, like, say, a dragonglass candle. Quaithe points out that the man mostly did common magic tricks while pickpockets looted the crowd. She then goes on to tell Daenerys that her bringing forth the dragons is the reason magic has increased in the world. And then she offers Daenerys another warning about leaving the city soon, or she'll never be permitted to leave at all. And Daenerys asks where she would go, and we get Quaithe's, I think, most well-known sort of warning or prophecy. And she hits her with, to go north, you must journey south. To reach the west, you must go east. To go forward, you must go back. And to touch the light, you must pass beneath the shadow. Daenerys mistakenly assumes Quaithe is telling her to head to Ashai, and she asks her what she'll find there. Quaithe replies with truth, and then later that day, Daenerys goes and visits Pyat Pri in the House of the Undying. Quaithe doesn't seem to have any actual greedy intentions. Unlike Pyat Pri, who wants to, hold on to her to increase his magic, and the dragons, as well as Zaro, who wants to marry her to get one of the dragons as well. But Quaithe just seems to be actually providing honest help. And one thing I'd like to point out is that while they're in the marketplace, Quaithe touches Daenerys' arm, and it tingles a bit where she touched her. She kind of stated that through her conversation that she knows what's going on with magic. Anybody think that possibly Quaithe may have hit her with some sort of, skin-absorbed solution that may have helped her survive her trip to the Undying?
Nope.
Nope.
I've never heard that theory before. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have something to say. She says he could barely wake fire from dragonglass. That still means he could. That mean he lit a glass candle?
Well, he is a fire mage, so you gotta figure he's gotta do something.
Yeah, but lighting a glass candle is pretty significant. That's the thing that everyone uses as indicator that magic has returned.
Yeah, that's Planetos' version of instant messaging, isn't it?
Yeah, AIM.
Oh boy.
For those children of the 90s out there.
Okay, so no on the magic skin touch lotion. Rub, puts it in the basket.
Lotion. Why the fuck is it lotion?
She rubs the lotion on her skin, or else she gets the House of the Undying again.
No.
Oh boy.
No. If Quaithe didn't mean a shy, and Dany guesses a shy, and she says truth, what the hell is Quaithe saying there? Like, why would Quaithe not say, no, you got it wrong, I'm at this place.
I think that they were supposed to go to Ashai, but then later on George decided not to, so that's probably just a lost in George's writing type thing. But
Why
he's
George has
gonna make it work in the end. So
That's why Jorah has
Hopefully.
the big boner for Ashai all through book 1. It's like, run away with me to Ashai.
Yeah, that's always been weird in my mind. Like, doesn't seem like a vacation destination.
No,
Like,
it
nothing
sounds
lives
like-
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just there.
Yeah, it's not like
Probably
run
just
away
the
would be
last he hasn't ran to.
It's the only place he's not a wanted criminal in.
Like, yeah, he's gonna stick out in the Summer Isles. He can't exactly go anywhere else throughout Essos, so he's just gonna go as far as they know stuff is.
But the Summer Isles, man.
It'd be a little
That
more
sounds
fun, but I don't think he could hide as well.
Yeah, but no one ever goes to
Did you
the
say
Summer
hide or get high?
Hide? I mean, either or.
Well, for the most part, Quaithe is out of the books until Dance of Dragons. When she shows back up again, just sort of randomly, Daenerys says, "Are you here?" Quaithe, "No. Hear me, Daenerys Targaryen. The glass candles are burning. Soon comes the pale mare. After her, the others, Kraken and Darkflame, Lion and Griffin, Sun's Son, and the Murmurer's Dragon. Trust none of them. Remember the Undying. Beware the perfumed Seneschal." Dany guesses, Resnack. Why should I fear him? "If you have some warning for me, speak plainly. And what do you want of me, Quaithe?" And then Quaithe just tells her to show her the way. So she's claiming she doesn't actually want anything from her, aside to sort of be a guide. One of the links that could possibly make this to Ashara Dayne is that if Ashara is trying to end up getting back home to Westeros, she'll need one of the Targaryens to go back and conquer it so she can actually show back up and be herself again. Otherwise, that's going to give away some of the treason that she performed.
Wait a minute, what treason did she perform?
If she faked her death and helped, either
Smuggle a Targaryen out.
smuggle a Targaryen out or lied about Jon's heritage.
But she hasn't said anything about Jon's parentage
No, she hasn't.
to make
but
it a lie.
She hasn't really said anything about anything.
Yeah.
She's kind of just...
Oh, she just stands there and looks pretty. That's pretty much her only trait so far.
Yeah, and she appears like when no one's there.
Yeah, she appears to her just sort of in visions.
Yeah, which is the glass candle.
Yeah,
No?
but if she's like in physical form when they first talked, so does that mean like she knew she was going to be arriving there, got there, talked to her, and in the interim, since they've been apart, that's when they figured out the glass candles are burning, and now she, instead of going all the way to her, she's just telepathing her way there,
Yeah, that's,
Say it again?
that's what I thought.
if that makes sense. So basically, like they're in physical form the first time they're talking in Karth. That's why Jorah was able to see her and say, "Hey, I don't know who that is." And so then they go on their separate ways. They go through this whole journey of being a conqueror. Now she's set up in Marine. Would the glass candles be burning more now? Because now every time she sees her, it's always in this shadow form. She says if her servants come in, they're going to say that nobody's there. That's what I don't get.
Well, I
Well,
guess
every
it depends
time-
on the timeline, right? If the glass we don't know when they started burning in the Citadel, right?
hmm
Right.
So I guess it could be. No,
Yeah, it'd be like, where did she go in the interim? Did she stay in Karth where they maybe have a candle, and she's just using that now that she can? And she was in
went-
Karth the whole time and like knew she was coming?
She went back to the Iron Islands.
Is she Daario?
Yeah. She's Euron. Confirmed.
I suppose it's possible that the glass candles sort of gain in power as the dragons get bigger or older or more powerful themselves. I mean, if they're inherently related to sort of the ebb and flow of magic in the world, the dragons gain in power. So do the glass candles, and ergo, Quaithe is able to also use them for more purposes.
I think that the dragons are just part of the magics. Like the others and stuff like that. It just seems like all magic, and it's
Yeah.
not really dependent on the dragons. It's the dragons were able to hatch because of this increase in magics.
Right. It's not that the dragons are creating the magic, it's that the magic increase has allowed all of these things to happen at the same time.
Right.
Okay, so it's more like a high tide, low tide thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth mentioning that when Dany sees Quaithe when she's out on her terrace, it's under like a moon or a starry sky, I don't remember. She's outside. And that's one of the things with the glass candles is they're supposed to be somehow related to the night sky.
Really? I thought they were like the seeing stones in Lord of the Rings, the Palantirs.
I mean, they're kind of like that. But,
Doesn't like Marwyn say like they used them to communicate like long ago, the Valyrians?
did
Why do
he?
I feel like I read that somewhere?
Hmm.
I might be lying straight to your face. I don't know.
Yeah, I know at the very end of Dance, when he's talking to Sam, he does a little bit of like, oh yeah, here's this thing, here's what it does, it's pretty cool, and then takes off on his mission to go find Dany. But I think that's really the only information we have to go off of, other than like the training that the Maesters go through where they try to light it as the big test. Besides that, we don't really have any actual information about like how they work, or we kind of know what they do, but we don't know in what context.
Yeah, but maybe I'm just maybe I've been watching too much Preston Jacobs, but when he does his video on Ashara equals Quaithe, he's talking about how Dany continually relates Quaithe with stars, and the specific quote is the whispering of stars that she keeps relating with Quaithe. And the last time she sees Quaithe, which is right at the end of book 5, and she's like out in the field with the dragon shitting herself, she says something about she's talking to Quaithe, and the line is like, and she drifted off to the whispering of stars. And if you go back to the beginning of book 1 when she's having all of her fever dreams, there's a whole bunch of dreams right in a row that show different things that only Dany would know. And then there's one dream that shows all of it. I think it's right at the end of book 1. And in that dream they mention the whispering of stars. And he figures that Quaithe couldn't know any of these other dreams unless she had sent all of them, or at least been part of all of them. And so that big dream proves that Quaithe has been sending her all of these dreams that have allowed her to deal with the pain of riding in the grass sea, and to deal with Drogo, and to deal with her brother. Every time she has a dream, she has a major personality shift towards being stronger and being able to deal with her situations more. If you relate Ashara to stars, or Quaithe to stars, there's a lot of other points in the book where people like zone out while they're under the moon, or zone out while they're under the stars. Like in book 1, there's a scene where Ned is talking to Catelyn right after they banged, and he's standing out on the porch, and the last line in that is that he's looking out at the moon, or perhaps the stars, you know. So there's a lot of moments where it'd be kind of cool to think that Quaithe is looking over everybody, not just one person.
That she's creepily peeping on Ned and like
That's a naked Ned, yeah. Well, she's getting a good view. She hasn't seen him in years.
I think if that ends up being true, that's going to turn out to be like this series version of the Eagles and Lord of the Rings that everyone talks about. Like, you should just drop it.
Yeah.
If you can do all that, why not just send visions into Robert's head at night? Like, you're an asshole. Abdicate. Give the throne back to the Targaryen.
Because he sleeps inside.
Okay.
Well, let's face it, Robert's probably too passed out drunk to like actually receive any visions. I mean,
that's my new tinfoil. That's why he was drinking, was to prevent, he was getting the visions, and he drank so much to keep the visions from getting in, like Daron the Drunkard.
That has some textual evidence, because there are, like, when Bran gets milk of the poppy, he doesn't have his wolf dreams anymore.
Confirmed.
I'm on board.
yeah, and actually Daenerys does notice that Quaithe's mask is made of starlight in her last vision in Dance of Dragons before she started finding her way back south, which ends up leading her towards one of the outriders for, I think it's Khal Drogo or Khal Jogo?
Joquo, I think,
Joquo.
or something like that. One of the guys who abandoned her when Drogo died.
Yeah, she encounters a scout of Khal Jaqo, Jhaqo, who gets scared off by Drogon, and then they ended up flying northeast after that. So, and that's when Daenerys kind of feels like Quaithe is giving her where she sort of figured out Quaithe's suggestions of to go north you must go south, and then to reach the west you must go east, and then to forward you have to go back.
Sounds like she doesn't know how to use a compass. a little confused. No, but it's also worth noting the Danes are at Starfall, and they have a star on their sigil.
Stop.
Not to mention, well, no, the Danes have also been Targaryen loyalists throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
So, Arthur died fighting them. Ashara was in the court of the Mad King. So, yay or nay? Quaithe equals Ashara Dayne?
Nay.
I'm going to vote nay.
I don't know, and I like both ideas.
Okay. Well, let's move on and go for the next one, which...
I want to talk about Myrcella.
Okay.
Do it.
So, this is another one which was inspired by Preston Jacobs, the crackpot. But it's noted that while Myrcella is traveling to Dorne, with her comes Rosamund Lannister, who is a cousin, I think, and who looks vaguely like Myrcella, close enough that they use her as a body double while they're traveling. And the theory is that when they get to Dorne, they don't switch them back. So the Myrcella that you see in all of the Dorne chapters is actually Rosamund Lannister. And this is to trick the Dornish, because they suspect that the Dornish are going to use her as a hostage, or if they end up trying to kill Myrcella or do anything to her, that they'd actually be doing it to Rosamund. And the little bit of textual evidence for this is in Ares Oakhart's chapters, he never really specifically refers to who everyone else thinks as Myrcella. He's always using, like, the lady, the girl, things like that throughout all of his chapters. When there's that plot with Darkstar and the others to make Myrcella the queen and they're escaping with her, Ares is suddenly wearing his white cloak, and he's been purposely not wearing it throughout much of his story because he doesn't feel like he's being honorable. And even the other characters during this plot think about it, and they're saying to him, like, why are you wearing your white cloak when we're trying to be sneaky? This is stupid. And Ares keeps remembering a conversation that he had with Doran Martell, where Doran Martell is telling Ares that he wants to send Myrcella to the Water Gardens because the only way that Myrcella will be safe is if no one knows where she is. And Ares keeps thinking that line of dialogue as they're escaping is that the only way she's safe is if no one knows where she is. Well, that would make sense if Rosamund and Myrcella had been switched the whole time, because right after they leave on that plot to queen the supposed fake Myrcella, Rosamund Lannister and the rest of the Lannister household in Sunspear disappear, and no one knows where they are right now. So the theory is that Ares is wearing his white cloak because he's being honorable again, and allowing the real Myrcella to escape with the rest of their household.
Doesn't the person that everyone believes to be Myrcella, doesn't she lose an ear or she suffers some kind of injury along the way? So does that mean that the real Myrcella is fine in good health?
Yes, that means she's in good health. The only
she's pretending to have chicken pox, right?
Yeah, she was pretending. So when they smuggled her out, they pretended that Myrcella had chicken pox and left fake Rosamund to act like she had chicken pox, so no one would go in her room to buy themselves a little time.
Right.
And the theory is that, since no one in Dorne would know what Myrcella actually looked like, when they see Rosamund Lannister, who vaguely looks like Myrcella to people who don't know her, that they would just assume that Rosamund is Myrcella. The only trouble I can think of is did Balon Swan ever meet the real Myrcella or see her up close? Because when he comes and he talks to Myrcella with the big gash across her head, he assumes it's Myrcella too.
Right, and then he rides off to go fight Darkstar, right?
Right. But I can't think of a time in the books when Balon Swan actually met Myrcella.
No, probably not.
Yeah, because he gets promoted to the Kingsguard a little bit later on, actually after she's already left the city, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's in King's Landing. Even in Book 1, he's in King's Landing. But I don't think Myrcella is ever in the throne room. Is she even in King's Landing in Book 1?
Yes, she is.
I think so.
She travels with the party. She travels with the party to Winterfell, and then she travels back to King's Landing with the rest.
Yeah, but I don't know if he ever would have seen her, because he's in the throne room when Sansa pleads to have Ned Stark saved. But Myrcella's not there at that time, I don't think. So I don't know if he ever would have seen her up close. But they were both in the Red Keep, so maybe he did. But then the interesting question is, if Myrcella and Rosamund were switched, where is the real Myrcella? Where did they escape to?
I don't know.
That is a good question.
But I always thought there was something about Doran just saying, look at the children, they all look the same, when they're all having fun in the Water Garden. So I always assumed maybe not that Myrcella, Rosamund got her face cut open, but that they talked to Myrcella, that wasn't Myrcella.
Yeah.
They put their own imposter, not that Ares was smart enough to have a running imposter or something.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if that's true, how the Valonqar theory works out with that happening.
Oh, that's true, because all the children of Cersei are supposed to die before Cersei bites the big one.
Yeah.
Maybe she just becomes under the impression, maybe the fake Myrcella gets killed off, and then Cersei just thinks that's good enough.
Maybe.
Well, did anyone else think it was weird that fake Myrcella, or real Myrcella, I don't know, Myrcella, was so willing to go along with the Dornish plan to convince Balon to go off and chase Darkstar?
Isn't she only 9 or something? She's pretty young.
Yeah, she's slightly older than her younger brother, isn't she? The king?
Yeah.
If you think about it, she's been going along with everything so far, so she might as well just go along with this. She had to go along to go to Dorne, she had to go along with whatever she's doing down there, so she's probably just easily able to go with everything.
But don't you think that if Myrcella was actually Rosamund, that she'd be a lot more inclined to go along with everything? Because it's her job.
Be make me queen. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's her jump up in life.
Yeah, it's sort of like how candidates or whatnot will have like a body double sort of thing to draw sniper's bullets or things like that. So, yeah, I can see that.
What?
Yeah.
That isn't Donald Trump we've been seeing on stage?
No, I don't think anybody could body double for him. I mean, there's not too many orange people. I mean, maybe a Muppet or something like that.
No, you just need
Scooter from the Muppets might be able to pull it off, but I don't know if anyone else could.
You need some good carpet and a lot of orange paint, and anybody could be Donald Trump.
Maybe the Syracuse Orangemen, like, mascot. That's about it.
So that's my crazy, well, not even my theory, but that's the crazy Rosamund theory.
Okay.
Jack, where did you hear that from? Because I remember hearing it too, and I forget where I heard it from.
Yeah, that was Preston Jacobs.
Yeah, that's it. Then yeah.
I don't know why people are so quick to write him off. He cites his sources like nobody else.
Because he's crazy pants.
Well, yes.
Some of them are actually not bad. Like there's a couple where I'm like, like I think there's one recent one that I was like, but some of them are pretty good.
Lately
he's
It's like those guys on like History Channel that's like, could it be that aliens did this and here's all the reasons why? It's like, no, it's not. Aliens didn't do it.
Yeah, lately he's been tying in a lot to George's other science fiction works, and that's getting pretty off the wall. Like, he thinks that the Red Comet is actually a satellite that artificially boosts magic in the world.
At what, Tough
things
Left
like
or
that.
something? Or
Well, I think now if he wants to continue his YouTube channel, he has to reach a little bit.
yeah, until we get the next book.
There's only so much you can do.
The one that I thought was really telling, the video that really got me on his side, is when he was talking about Sansa going down the mountain with what's-her-face, Miranda, and how Sansa actually, even though she doesn't explicitly give anything away, she gives away everything about herself and Littlefinger's plan unknowingly.
Wait a minute, what?
Yeah, there's a conversation that Sansa and Miranda have where Miranda's, sort of talking trash about commoners and bastards, and Sansa's supposed to be pretending to be Littlefinger's bastard daughter, and Sansa's like, yeah, okay, that's right. And then she mentions Jon Snow being promoted to the Wall, but she doesn't mention Jon Snow by name. She says Ned Stark's bastard, and Sansa's like, oh, you mean Jon Snow? So she's kind of showing her hand a little bit.
Well, and the really damning thing there is she was supposed to be supposedly raised by the faith. And in that same sentence, Miranda says, so there's a new High Septon, and the Lord Commander at the Wall is Ned's bastard. And she ignores the High Septon thing and says, oh, Jon Snow? It's like, oh, no.
Well, it could have been like, I was raised by the faith. Of course I know there's a new High Septon. Duh.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of damning stuff in that conversation, though. And he thinks that when Sansa's shoe fell off, when Lysa got pushed out the moon door, that Nestor Royce has the castle right below that, and that he found 3 shoes. And so they knew some other lady with expensive shoes up there dropped her shoe while Lysa was being murdered.
Oh, I remember.
And he used that to put together that Baelish actually murdered Lysa. So Nestor Royce apparently knows that Baelish murdered Lysa, and he's just playing along for now.
No, I don't think so. I think that's
insane.
I think that's George Martin just hating like Disney princesses and like Disney tales. That's all. He takes his turns.
I like Disney.
Yeah, he takes his Martin takes his turns shitting all over him. Like the first one's an evil queen that poisons people she doesn't like. That's pretty much Snow White. So they're no. No,
What? I haven't heard this one.
Oh yeah, basically using Sansa to show that like fairy tale princesses are totally unreasonable. So
Okay.
yeah, as she's going through her story and Cinderella tale for the shoe falling out and whatnot. No, nobody's gonna find it. No one's gonna match it up to Sansa and determine this. No, it's just too unlikely. Do we want to move on to the next one? How about Aurane Waters?
Right on. Okay.
Daario.
I mean, he could be. He's got, I don't know. I had something there, then I lost it.
He seems pretty charismatic.
And he is a person who exists in the Song of Ice and Fire universe, so that does put him well into the category of people who could be Daario.
Yeah, I would like to mention that Myrcella is Daario, too.
No, is that fake Myrcella is Daario, or is that Myrcella is Daario?
Oh, no.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them are Daario.
Oh, all right.
So
Everybody is Daario being warged by Benjen.
So they're like the Super Daario sisters.
No one laughed at that.
Nobody would have laughed at that, Varley, had you not said.
Don't reward that. That was awful.
It's
Okay.
me, Daario.
So back to Aurane Waters?
Okay, Aurane Waters, my homeboy. Aurane Waters is the bastard brother of Monford Valerian. They are from the island of Driftmark, which is why he is known as the Bastard of Driftmark, or as I call him, the Badastard of Driftmark. He fought with Stannis in the Battle of the Blackwater, but he was captured and bent the knee to Joffrey, and then does jack shit until he just gets noticed for being hot by Cersei, which is kind of weird. He bends the knee in King's Landing and then just ends up staying there, and somehow he's lucky enough to survive all that, gets a pardon, and then just somehow gets an invitation and shows up to Joffrey and Marjorie's wedding, which I think was a little weird. Then he is staying around court, eventually works his way in with Cersei, who thinks he looks a lot like Rhaegar, so she likes keeping him around for his hotness. So he ends up eventually getting promoted to be the Master of Ships, where he sits on the small council and gives an occasional kind of weird information that makes me doubt a bunch of his loyalty. He's talking about dragons in the east, which Cersei immediately shoots down. Let's see, he says that Stannis has purchased the Golden Company and that he could be using them. So he's throwing out a lot of really weird false information. After Marjorie's arrest, he immediately goes to Cersei and says that he should launch the new Dromans out that she has built for him. He's got 10 of them total, that they're going to go patrol the Blackwater Rush to keep peace in King's Landing, which I'm not really sure how that's supposed to work, but she agrees to it because it's supposed to keep Mace Tyrell from coming in and rescuing his daughter, which he then promptly takes the boats, absconds off to where the theories begin, and that's where we're trying to figure out now. So what we have from the Winds of Winter, we have from Lady Toland, we have the Lord of the Waters has been sighted in Torturer's Deep, which we're not really entirely sure where that's supposed to be. But he's been sighted there in the Stepstones, calling himself Lord of the Waters and being a pirate, which Arianne thinks is a bit weird because the descriptions of the ships are too large and not really well used for pirating. That kind of destroys what my pet theory would have been, which a lot of people, of course, know about the patch face theory, where they were going to blow seashells and ride mermen and seahorses. So that's the one I wanted it to be.
Who, Varys and Illyrio?
No, these were mermen, not merlings. Those are two very distinctively different underwater mer people. There's a clear division there.
I'm sorry.
Probably.
Are you sure?
No, that was being a smartass.
Why the hell doesn't he go back to Driftmark? Because Monford Valerian gets killed, and I don't think Monford has an heir, so he should be the heir to Driftmark.
He does. It's Monteris.
Dude, he's
Valerian.
king of the pirates. What the fuck does Driftmark mean?
Fuck Driftmark, I'm going to be a pirate!
King of the pirates.
Yeah, not only that, he just got, like, basically a totally free fleet from, the Lannisters. So that's a pretty good start to your pirating career of did nothing, showed up, looked good, and score a whole bunch of boats for nothing.
Yeah, and based off of, like, the very few things we get about his character, like, on one of the small council meetings when they're talking about Davos dying, he kind of throws out the smart-ass quip of, like, oh, he'll have to get a new hand, maybe the Knight of the Turnips. So he's pretty quick, he's got some intelligence to him, and he's a bit of a smart-ass, so absconding with 10 ships and a fleet for free and then just go setting yourself up as pirate, yeah, that seems like something that a cool 22-year-old that just got a bunch of stuff for free would do. But it makes the least, I guess, literary significance, and just be like, and then he just fucked off for a little while.
You know who else is that age is also a pirate king and also as smart and quippy and handsome? Daario.
But he's not a pirate.
Yeah, he is. He's the Corsair King.
What?
He's the Corsair King who was going to buy the Unsullied that Daenerys bought out from under him. That's one of the theories.
Yeah, but you said that like it was like common knowledge.
Isn't it? Everyone's Daario.
I suppose.
Yeah,
No,
I thought that
that's-
was just like a random Corsair King. Like, there's so many times like George does these cool little underlying like Easter eggs or something that he just hides in there, and then other times it is just a complete coincidence.
But how many pirate kings can there be? I mean,
Apparently,
Well, there's
quite a few.
5 kings in Westeros.
yeah, that's true.
Well, to be fair, Waters just got his fleet.
You're
I think
crushing
one
my
of the
Daario
coolest things
dreams.
I think one of the coolest things about it is he's got all these people, and he gets all the people from the black cells, all the people that they were asking to be sent to the wall, that they weren't going to send to the wall until they get the North situation figured out. He decides, hey, send all these people over to me, and they can command, or they can be a part of my new fleet, all the Drummonds, that way we can have men to man them. So they seem like that's a good idea. And out of all these criminals and out of all the people that he's got, yeah, he technically got them jobs and got them plucked out of having to go to the wall, but not one of them told anybody about any of these plans. I'm sure Aurane Waters wasn't like sharing plans with absolutely everybody in his new fleet, but somebody had to have an idea that they were just going to take off. I doubt that they were hanging out one night. He gets the message that Cersei was arrested, and they just set full sails ahead. Like, they had to have known they were going to take off at some point, and nobody ratted him out.
Yeah, it does seem strange to man your entire royal fleet with criminals and not expect them to become pirates.
I'm getting what's textually evident confused with what I want, and I don't want him to just go away and be a pirate. I mean, it's kind of cool, and I would like that for that character, but I'd like him to do something more. And the description in The Winds of Winter saying that the those ships aren't particularly good for pirating either means he's going to set up, try to be a pirate king, and get completely crushed and dominated by either the Ironborn and the Volantene coming over with Dany, or he's not actually being a pirate. Just throwing out my final answer on this theory, I guess, is that he is set up, he's gone over to the Stepstones, and he's either facilitating or working with what left of the Golden Company that is straggling around down there and going to help him get up to the siege of Storm's End, is my long theory, even though I want him to go to Stannis.
Aurane Waters stole the elephants from the Golden Company.
That would be helpful.
Well,
Yeah, because
isn't, what's his name always like, where the fuck are my elephants? I never made it back. Oh, the pirates got them.
Yep. Didn't somebody
that's
say
true.
that
Half
they spotted elephants in the Rainwood, though?
Oh, maybe.
That'd be kind of cool.
And it is kind of weird the Golden Company comes over with, on not many ships, just some Volantene sails. They get all spread out through a giant storm, but this brand new pirate king who's never pirated is still apparently hanging out in the same spot with no damage.
I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the other fleets that were hired by Stannis, sellsword fleets and pirate fleets that got sunk in the Battle of the Blackwater, the competition's probably pretty small right now. So this, if you're gonna,
Salador Sand's still out there.
yeah, that's
Still
one.
doing his pirating stuff.
Maybe there was a plan among the Golden Company for some of them to switch sides and join that pirate king ahead of time.
Or there's a small theory, I don't really think that it's going to work, but that he set himself up there, and then when part of the stragglers from the Golden Company were coming over, he has captured them and now has part of them hostage and now has part of an army with his fleet, like with the elephants and everything. Regardless, the only thing that doesn't make sense in the whole thing is the fact that he set himself up as the pirate king. Like, if he was going to go to Dany, why wait there and call yourself anything? No, you just go as fast as possible. I just don't get the point of him calling himself the Lord of the Waters, and I don't get the point of doing that if he has other intentions, because it just takes away time from doing those things.
Because I don't think he had any other intentions. He wanted to be a fucking pirate king.
Yeah, I think
So he did.
Yeah, that's true. And besides, why downgrade yourself to just pirate king when you can upgrade yourself to sort of like, lord? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's more of an opportunistic thing. Oh, this first thing didn't work out. I guess I'll stick around and see if something else shows up. Oh, hey, it did. Score, they're going to give me a fleet and make me the admiral? Okay. Suckers.
Yeah. Then I guess the quote from Ariane where she's saying that the ships aren't very good for pirating, I guess that's just... I like him because he's such a smart ass, so I want him to succeed in whatever's going to end up happening. But the fact that he's got ships that aren't good for pirating just makes me think that he doesn't know he's about to get his ass kicked by somebody.
Well, maybe he takes
Probably
the
the
ships...
Red Wines, right? They're about to
they
head
have,
south of Dragonstone and kill any pirates that are attacking. So
Being from Driftmark and being a Valyrian, basically, shouldn't he know what ships are good for what? It doesn't seem like he'd be the kind of guy to just throw away all his ships on something they're not good at.
yeah, but they're free ships, so it's like, whatever. We'll see how this rides out.
Yeah, plus he could also probably take those ships and sell them off. I mean, it's plenty of people who would probably be looking for, a brand new fleet pre-assembled. So if he wants to do that, either sell them off or trade them off for other ships that would be great for pirating, that's not a bad starting spot.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we all done with Aurane Waters?
I think so.
Hey, okay, do you want to introduce yourself for everybody who's been listening?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm Georgie, George 2016 on the forums. So I kind of got introduced to all of this by one guy from work. His name, he's actually on the forums, Pops88. And so, yeah, he introduced me to the series and then the books, and then got really persistent with the podcasting. And then, yeah, so here I am. And favourite character is Jamie.
If you don't mind me saying, you don't sound like a George.
No?
No.
Jamie's cool.
So where are you from in England?
I live in a place called Hertford, just outside London. Have you guys started discussing anything on the where people are?
Yeah, we went through a couple of them
Quite a
already.
bit.
Yeah. So, do you want to jump in and start your theory? Because it looks like...
So my theory is on Arthur Dayne still being around. So this kind of all centres on the shady descriptions around the Tower of Joy and the fact that we never actually know what happened there, or, all we get is that Ned says that Howland Reed, saved his life, or, he would have died if it hadn't been for Howland Reed. But actually, he was up against the Sword of the Morning, the big man. It kind of seems improbable to me that Howland and Ned would have defeated Arthur Dayne. So I think that maybe that Howland jumped in and got some negotiating going down in there, and instead sort of suggested to Arthur that if he managed to beat Ned and Howland, other soldiers would have been on their way to kill him and to kill Lyanna and to get Lyanna and to kill the baby, that sort of thing. So his only way to actually stay true to his vows would have done some pretty hefty negotiating with Ned and Howland, and therefore, Ned went off with the baby and Howland Reed, and then Arthur survived, based around the fact that, everyone
you
talks
want
about
Arthur Dayne to be alive.
Yes.
You just want him to be alive. Okay.
I want him to be alive, essentially. but also everyone who comments on him talks about how great, he's a great swordsman, he's the best swordsman, he's one of the best Kingsguard. He could have fought 5 people with his little finger, essentially. So I don't see how Ned and Howland Reed could have beat him. And also, this way, he actually stays true to his vows to protect Lyanna, to protect the baby, that sort of thing, to protect Rhaegar's child. And also, they never find a body. Ned goes back with Dawn to Starfall, obviously because Arthur Dayne at some point is going to reclaim Dawn.
What? Wait a minute, they never brought back a body because he covered them with the rubble of the Tower of Joy. Everyone.
Yeah, he made a cairn over it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, no!
But I don't believe that Ned and Howland could have defeated Arthur Dayne.
Well, it was 7 against 3, so just
it was 7 against 3, but it eventually just boiled down to Arthur Dayne versus Ned and Howland Reed.
Yeah, but Arthur might have got injured by the other 6 guys or 5 guys.
He might have.
I don't think he'd find any honor in not killing everyone.
Well, maybe not, but he would have stayed true to his vows to protect to protect Lyanna's baby, to protect Rhaegar's baby.
He also stays true to the vows if he dies. I mean, dying while
he
trying
does.
to
No,
keep
he
your
does.
vows.
That's fair. But essentially, if he managed to kill, Howland and Ned, someone would have come by. More knights would have come by. They'd have definitely killed him. They'd have definitely killed Lyanna's baby. Whereas this way, all of them.
So if he's still alive, where is
they all match. Well, this is a very good
Daario?
point, and that I'm not 100% sure about. Yeah, it could be Daario. So there were theories that he could be with the Golden Company. There were
But why?
theories
It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to my brain. Why would it?
I know.
But it's because then, at some point he can come back and, fight for Rhaegar's son.
But why would Ned allow that? It just doesn't make any sense. Because first of all, we assume that R plus L equals J.
Yeah.
Right? And then we have to assume that in the middle of the fight, Howland Reed's like, okay, let's hold on. This is how I'm going to save Ned's life. Let's talk this up. That doesn't make sense either.
He's Aurane Waters. He's the Pirate King.
Exactly.
They both look Valyrian. Dayne ages really well.
Also, why do the Danes really like Ned and the Starks and everything? They name Edric Ned, even though he supposedly killed Arthur Dayne Ashara Dayne supposedly threw herself off a cliff because she was pregnant with one, possibly his, possibly Brandon's child, but they still really like Ned. Is it because he let Arthur Dayne live?
Because R plus L
Because he
equals
returned
D.
the sword.
Huh?
Yeah, because he returned the sword. They like him because he's honorable.
If Arthur Dayne is the most chivalrous, honorable, and most like diehard to his vows guys out there, then there's no way he's going to keep on living without the express idea that what he's doing is going to be for who he thinks the heir to the throne is going to be. So
But exactly, so he could be waiting somewhere.
Wouldn't that be neglecting his Kingsguard vows, though?
Yep.
It would.
And he would never
at
let,
the-
if it was John and he was hiding out up north, kind of keeping an eye out for him or whatever, he's not going to, for lack of a better word, let him join the watch, because then he can't, the whole point of watching over him would be watching over him as a king.
Right.
So he would have to be actively trying to get him on the throne.
So it's Varys.
What?
It's Varys. It's definitely Varys. He shaved his head, he got fat, and he's trying to put Aegon on the throne.
Well, see, I thought Strong Belwas.
Strong. Oh my god.
What?
I'm on board.
Strong Belwas.
Strong Belwas is Arthur Dayne?
The pit fighter?
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
Again,
Strong Belwas likes
to my-
locusts. He likes locusts, and Arthur Dayne is from Dorne, where spicy foods are popular.
Right?
Are locusts
You
is
never
spicy?
see them
They're
together.
bugs.
Weren't they spicy locusts that he was eating?
I gotta
Yeah,
shit.
They're honey locusts. They had
Yeah, but
spice
they were
and honey.
too hot. They were too hot for Dany, weren't they? Wasn't that the reason she didn't like them?
Also, they're bugs.
Well, that too. That seems like a Dornish thing. I'm on. Strong Belwas is definitely Arthur
So
Dayne.
he really went whole hog there. He was like, okay, I'm cutting off my junk. I'm going over to the fighting pits. I'm going to work this out. He's like, I'm down with this plan. And Howland Reed's like, okay, here's the contract. And he signed it. And it's like, wow, you're a freaking moron, buddy. Really got
You
the
said
shit
whole
end of
hog,
that
I
stick.
thought you were talking about him gaining weight.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, I guess weight gain too.
It's like, I gotta gain 10 stone right now.
Okay, my brain is just trying to comprehend this one. The notion is that Arthur Dayne becomes Strong Belwas, decides to recover from his injuries after the Tower of Joy by an all-you-can-eat buffet for 6 weeks, and then travels to Essos, gelds himself, becomes a slave pit fighter, decides, all that formal training and weapon and armor and stuff, who needs it? I'm gonna let guys cut me. And then,
Only once.
He's actually not. That started at the Tower of Joy. That's a couple of the cuts on his chest are from Ned and Howland and people.
Oh, maybe his
How
junk
would
got
the
cut off
spear?
at the Tower of Joy. And he's
That's
just like,
how-
oh, well, fuck it now.
There is a quote from George that says that Arthur Dayne would not be as good without Dawn, so maybe he's just not as good. I'm playing devil's advocate here, so.
Side note, he also named his penis Dawn.
hence the
So
sword
does
of the
mine.
Morning He's a fallen knight.
The tree has been felled.
Anything
What's
else?
next?
Anything else on Arthur Dayne versus
He is neither alive nor is he Strong Belwas.
But I don't think that Howland and Ned would have defeated him. Yeah, unless Howland was behind him while Ned pushed or something. I just don't see how it happened.
Well, something shady went down from when Ned was
This was a
talking to
battle,
Frank.
not Three Stooges.
They were pushing a piano up a staircase.
Yeah.
Howland Reed
I
just
just-
dropped an anvil off the Tower of Joy.
Yeah.
he built one of those Wile E. Coyote contraptions?
Yep.
Arthur Dayne held up a sign that said "Ouch."
Yeah.
I think it would be uncharacteristic of George to, one of his big themes is communication and how it changes among people. One of the ways he plays that up is when Arthur Dayne's dead, people all talk about him like he's a god, and that's something that actually happens in real life. And I think it would be very strange of George to write that way and then have Arthur be alive, because the miscommunication wouldn't be there.
Okay.
So-
It's weird how Ned doesn't get credit for killing Arthur Dayne. Everyone talks about he's the Michael Jordan of all the knights in all of Westeros ever, and then the little wolf boy kills him, and no one seems to care anymore or give Ned credit or whisper that Ned
Well,
is a
'cause he-
super secret badass.
Well, I don't think Ned would ever brag about killing anyone.
Technically, he wouldn't have killed him if it wasn't for Howland Reed, so maybe.
I was under the impression that nobody in Westeros really knew. They just knew that 7 Northerners walked in and 3 Kingsguard, and then 2 Northerners walked out. They don't know if Ned killed Arthur or if one of the other guys did.
Yeah, the only recollection we have is through Ned's fever dream. So it's really unreliable anyway, but even though it's like one of my favorite chapters.
I just think if everybody remembers, like, Thoros of Myr and Jorah, like, running up onto Pike during the Greyjoy Rebellion and all, like, the deeds that Barristan did, all of the great stuff throughout, like, Westerosi history that everyone kind of, like, talks about in hushed tones, like, that's why Bran knows who Barristan is, because he's famous. Some random northern lord kills the most famous. And I mean, I guess a lot of other stuff did go on at the same time. They have a whole new king, a whole new regime, and, like, intact in Westeros now.
Stuff just fell through the cracks. It was like, everyone was still talking about, like, Robert and Rhaegar's battle, and it was like, oh. Yeah, but that was like after the sack of King's Landing, so basically war's won, like, game over. No more stories.
Game over, man.
I suppose if you're Ned and like you actually didn't kill, Arthur Dayne on your own, and you needed the help of Howland Reed, but people just kind of jumped to the conclusion that you did, and they started giving you praises for it, you're not gonna stop them from making you seem a little bit more badass than you are. You're not gonna go around and correct every last person, like, no, I did deliver the killing blow, but it was Howland who stabbed him in the back of the knees. So
Howland feels like he's being shit on. Howland's like, God damn it.
Well, it might have been like I scored the winning shot in the game, but Howland had the assist, so,
Right. And I think that's why, book readers are like, let's see Howland Reed. We gotta get this story. We just gotta get it.
It was Ned who had the assist and Howland who killed Arthur Dayne.
Well, when he's talking to Bran, he says, the finest knight he ever saw was Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, and he would have killed me if not for Howland Reed, and then Bran notes that he got very sad then and stopped talking. So I assumed he was like, oh crap, I'm about to die, and then Howland did something shady, like stabbed him in the back to save him, but Ned's so honorable, he thought that was wrong. There's a lot of interpretations you could have from that.
Yeah. Howland, like, jangled his keys. He's like, over here.
and Dane's like a puppy. He's like, where?
Yep.
We figure out through Jaime's POV, like, he has such an admiration for Arthur, and it's like his person he's aspiring to be, and he loves him so much. And then you've got Ned Stark over here. He's like at no point in time that conversation ever came up. Like, seriously, how'd you kill him? I know you didn't. Like, there's no way you won that sword fight. I don't care what you say.
Yeah, I don't know.
But exactly, it's all really shady around the fight because he didn't win.
I think it's because Jaime's too busy banging Cersei to care about Arthur Dayne anymore.
And that could also be true.
Maybe Howland threw like a jar of wildfire at him or something like that.
Oh,
and that's why they didn't bring the body back to Starfall. There wasn't like enough of it left. He's like, I'll bring the sword. That'll be good enough.
Oh man. Well, yeah, aren't some of the Northern Lords really pissed off at Ned for not bringing their family's bones back too?
Yes.
Yeah, well, Dustin.
Yeah.
Barbary
I think it's
Dustin.
just questionable and weird that he didn't do that.
He brought the horse back, though.
Wildfire does explain that. That's why he didn't bring back any of the bodies. All of them burned.
He brought back Lyanna, and he brought back the Great Red Stallion that Dustin had, or Lord Dustin did.
Yep.
The only thing that, if you think about it logistically, like how many bodies can he really carry back? You got to get people to go out and get them, and he's got to what can you do? It might just be like really simple like that he didn't bring them back, but it is weird that he didn't because he's so honorable and like say, hey, you guys over here bring these bodies back to Winterfell with me type thing.
Well, presumably each
If
of
he's
the
taking
seven
back a
Northern
sword,
Lords-
why isn't he taking back some bones?
Well, that'd be like 9
Yeah.
people's bodies that he'd have to bring back. I mean, he's got like
Yeah, but he's-
3 horses. I mean,
No, he has
and
7
John,
horses.
and a kid, and Howland, and the sword.
Every one of the Northern Lords would have had a horse, so he's got 1 body for each of the horses, and horses can carry 2 people easy.
Maybe not Westerosi horses.
Depends on how
they're
you stack them.
friends.
Yeah, also some of them might have gotten killed in the fight or whatever too.
He had some silent sisters involved.
Yeah, where do they stay? Are they in the...
I think they're just in King's Landing, right?
No,
They
they're
have
I
like
thought
to
they
go
were
all
more
the way
of a
to-
general, like, everywhere type of thing. Like, they have little
Yeah, I think they
stations.
stay at the Septons or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they might be like an organization tied to the faith, possibly.
Man,
Yeah.
if you're Lyanna and you're giving birth and you have silent sisters around, that's being pretty pessimistic.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, but they could call them to the cause after the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they're like just the regular camp followers in war. They just like, you know, they're like someone's gonna die.
You
If
just equated
Dustin
it to
is-
like ambulance chasing lawyers. I'm sure someone's gonna get sued.
So if Dustin is so pissed about her husband, I don't know who,
Husband.
her relative husband's bones not being brought back, she knows where they are, and she's had 20 years to go get them. She could send somebody to go get them.
She's a stubborn northern broad.
Yeah, that's it.
I think it's pretty clear probably what happened. Howland was dying, warged Arthur Dayne as before he killed Ned,
Oh my god.
and has lived the rest of his life in Arthur Dayne's body in Greywater Watch, and that's why we don't see him.
That makes
And
perfect
what?
sense. We solved it,
And
guys.
and it's also Dario.
And Bloodraven took over Ned to move him out of the way.
All right, well, let's try moving on to the next theory. Does anyone want to go next? Or
Let's talk about Tyrek, because I'm psyched.
Yes.
all right, and that one's mine. Yeah, so Tyrek Lannister, he kind of vanished during the bread riots, which actually literally occurred, right after they shipped Myrcella off to Dorne. And when the Lannisters were making their way back through the streets of King's Landing, in what was most likely a staged event, a woman holds up a dead baby before Joffrey, who ends up tossing coins at her, and then someone flings poo at him from apparently atop of a building, which spurs the riots. This is when Tyrek actually vanishes. Now, he gets brought up a couple more times in the books from this point, so that kind of suggests to me that he's going to show back up somewhere down the line. First, Tyrion ends up sending men out to find him. They can't. Bronn suggests that the boy's dead. But the weird part is, not only can they not find him, they can't even find a trace of him. So if he was torn apart by the mob, then there should be something. Scrap of cloth, a body part, maybe something he was carrying, like a ring or a weapon, or at least like a big blood stain where he died, but nothing. It's possible they did dump his body into the bay, and he washed out to sea, or it's possible that he may have just decided that things were, just going to go bad for the Lannisters and just took off out of the city to start his new life as Daario Naharis. The theory I want to go over now, which I think is a lot more likely, is that he was kidnapped. And normally hostages that are nobles that get kidnapped, they're held for ransom. But at the end of A Dance with Dragons, there were no ransom demands made. And realistically, Tyrek should have easily been worth a few thousand gold pieces, which easily the Lannisters could afford any of them. But no demands, nothing. So really, what's worth more than a few thousand gold? A few million gold dragons. Actually, about 3 million by my guess. At the first council meeting in Game of Thrones that Ned's at, we find out that the crown owes Tywin Lannister about 3 million. That's about half of the debt that the crown has. Now, if you end up taking the throne, you're going to also be inheriting the debt. And I'm guessing that this is something that Lord Varys had plotted out. We know that he's been secretly trying to put Aegon on the throne. When Aegon takes the throne, he's going to also be incurring all that debt, not only from the Lannisters, but also from the Iron Bank, and also those cartels that they borrowed money from. And, actually, he doesn't have to pay the church back, because Cersei took care of that for him. Having the debts forgiven to the Lannisters would be a really huge boon and a way for him to start off his new reign as king, and he could use the extra money that they were using to pay the Lannisters back to rebuild the realm. But in order to do that, Tyrek has to become the Lord of Casterly Rock. And if we look at the Lannister family tree to find out who holds the debt, it's pretty interesting. At first, it's Tywin, who gets killed by Tyrion, and this is something that Varys could have easily stopped, but he didn't. And in fact, he enabled Tyrion to do it by showing him how to get into the Tower of the Hand unseen. So Tywin dies. Jaime would be the rightful Lord of Casterly Rock, except for he took the Kingsguard vows, so he can't hold lands. So then it passes from Tywin to Tyrion, who's a convicted killer and living off in Essos as a fugitive from justice. So unlikely that he's ever going to make good on his claim. Now the only other child is Cersei, so no male heirs, means the lordship skips her and then passes to her uncle Kevin. Kevin is not only shot by Varys, but he's stabbed by a bunch of children at the end of Dance. So it moves on to his children. Now, the oldest child of Kevin is Lancel Lannister, and he's joined the faith of the Seven, forsworn his worldly possessions and claims. Lancel does have two younger brothers, or actually I should say did, which was Willem and Martin, and those were the two Lannisters that got killed by Lord Karkstark in River Run. So that means the lordship of Casterly Rock falls to the next oldest brother of Tywin, who would be Tyget. And Tyget died of a pox, but he did have one son, which was Tyrek. And so wherever the world Tyrek is, he's all of a sudden very rich, and the Lord of Casterly Rock, meaning he owns the debts held by the crown. So as far as I can tell, if Varys wanted to arrange some sort of deal, kidnap Tyrek, ensure that the Lannisters start getting offed or forsake their claims, once Aegon takes the crown, Tyrek can forgive the debt and walk into Casterly Rock without so much as a fight and just claim his new inheritance.
Huh.
I do agree that it's kind of like Chekhov's Tyrek. Like, he does get mentioned enough where it's like, okay, let's see where this goes. I just don't have any idea. Like, obviously, like you just said, now he's heir to Casterly Rock, but, like, you know, what was his end game? Okay, hopefully all my family gets killed so I can be heir. Like, why would he stay in hiding, and, like, what is he actually doing? That's the only thing that keeps me from thinking that he's, you know.
So you think Varys kidnapped him?
Yeah, I do, because if you kidnap him and hold him prisoner and say, hey, look, you know, at some point I'll let you go, just sign this, you know, paper releasing the debts to the crown, okay, great.
Well, I think that Littlefinger has him.
Really, Littlefinger?
That Littlefinger has him?
Yeah, Littlefinger.
Huh.
Okay, why?
So there's a whole bunch of reasons. And so basically, the woman who originally brings the baby out of the crowd to show Joffrey, she's so weak that she can barely hold up her baby, but she pushes right through the gold cloaks. And Littlefinger owns the gold cloaks, and he's just as likely to pay off people in a crowd to riot as Varys is. Now, after the riot, Jaime is wondering why Varys would want Tyrek, because Jaime assumes that Varys is the one who kidnapped him. But it's pretty unlike George to point out who did it. Just like in the Purple Wedding, where he doesn't point out who did it, but if you read carefully, you notice that Littlefinger isn't there. It's the same here. Varys isn't there, but it's pointed out. Littlefinger is also not there when they get attacked. And supposedly Littlefinger isn't even in the city. He had left King's Landing before the riot to go to Highgarden. But once he arrives at Highgarden, his men are already talking about the riot, and they shouldn't even know about it if they've been traveling to Highgarden in the meantime. And there's also some clues about who died in the riot. So one of the people who dies in the riot is Aron Santagar. And Aron Santagar is the Master-at-Arms who knows about the Valyrian dagger, and who Catelyn goes and talks, or has what's-his-face talk to about the Valyrian dagger. And we all know that the Valyrian dagger is already a lie. And so he's got dirt on Littlefinger, and he is suspiciously murdered in this riot. The High Septon gets killed, who Littlefinger was already complaining about not being able to bargain with, or having difficulty bargaining with, and he's replaced by a guy who's easily bargained with. Preston Greenfield gets killed, one of the Kingsguard, and this is interesting because when Littlefinger gets to Highgarden, he's talking to the Tyrells about the possible appointment of Loras to the Kingsguard, when it's extremely unlikely that any of the Kingsguard would have died if he hadn't known about the riot. You know, a lot of them are very young, and they seem to have many years ahead of them. So it's strange that he should be talking about bargaining with Kingsguard slots when there shouldn't be any open. And then, of course, Sansa is almost dragged from her horse, and we know Littlefinger at this point is already obsessed with Sansa. And I think that what he was trying to do is kidnap Sansa and get her out of the city the way he does later. But the Hound shows up and messes that up for him by cutting off a whole bunch of people's arms. And that's basically it. Littlefinger already has Robert Arryn and the Vale, basically, because he's got Lysa in his pocket. So whatever his plan is, he was trying to kidnap Sansa, and maybe he would still marry her off to Harry the Heir or somebody in the Vale. But having Tyrek Lannister just adds to a group of wards and hostages that he has, and he already mentions this when he's in the Vale, that he has wards from a whole bunch of different lords who probably helps forgive their debt to the crown.
Okay. So where is he? Just like in one of Littlefinger's brothels or something? Or
Yeah, he's probably somewhere in the Vale or stashed away somewhere that Littlefinger owns. Because Littlefinger has doesn't he have a little keep in the Vale somewhere where he keeps all of his wards?
What?
He has
I don't
wards
think so.
from a whole bunch of different houses in the Vale, and they don't just walk around with him because they're not there during any of Sansa's chapters. So he must be keeping them somewhere.
Are you sure he has?
Yeah, he has wards. I don't remember from what houses. There are a couple of houses in the Vale that mention being poor throughout the books, and the theory is that because of the Iron Bank calling back all of their debts, all of these minor houses get really, really poor. And Littlefinger, being the financial genius that he is, has a ton of money. So he forgives the debt of a whole bunch of these Vale houses, like the Corbrays, or pays them off to have allies in the Vale. And one of the ways that he also secures those alliances is by keeping wards from a couple of these houses.
Because I think the wards would have to travel with him, and we'd have seen them.
Unless he has a keep somewhere where he has guards over them that will kill them if something happens.
Well, I mean, we know he has Harrenhal, but that still wouldn't make sense, because if you're grabbing Tyrek, you're going to want to have, something useful down the road.
He knows Tyrek is potentially useful down the road. If not, as he might not know that Tyrek was going to be inheriting the Casterly Rock, but neither could Varys, unless you're saying that Varys, perpetrated what's-his-face joining the Faith, and things like that, damn, Lancel. Lancel suddenly gets religiously obsessed. Varys can't make that happen. No one knows that Tyrek was going to be so important, but he is important as a hostage, and he's worth something. So it may have just been an afterthought of Baelish's to kidnap him while he was trying to also kidnap Sansa.
I don't know. I mean, obviously he's useful as a hostage, or ward, but I don't understand why he would leave when he was the king's squire, and I just don't.
Yeah, plus
he'd have to be kidnapped straight on just snatched, because I don't think he would have agreed to oh yeah, I'll go hang out with you and we'll see what shakes out.
Yeah, and he could have been kidnapped because he had information about Robert.
No, that's true. Tyrek
so did
was
Lancel, but so did Lancel, and Lancel was pretty seriously wounded. And
yeah, he could have been trying to kill Lancel to make Tyrek the only person who had information about Robert.
Huh.
The thing I wouldn't understand is why he would do, whether it was Littlefinger or Varys, why he would do what either of them wanted. He would have to get out of King's Landing because they wouldn't be able to just hold him against his will in the city that he's been living in for most of his life now.
Why not?
Right. I just don't see him. Even if, I don't know, my theory, not theory, but I guess my idea would be if you got stowed away in Littlefinger's brothel or some random house Varys had access to, and they basically we can't tell you what's going on, just hang out here forever, I would eventually get the idea that these people were my enemy and I'm not going to do what they want me to do when I get out. That may be different when he gets out and they're oh, hey, go be Lord of Casterly Rock and be the richest person in Westeros. He may agree to that, but I just don't know why kidnapping him and then thinking he's going to do what you want.
I don't think that was ever the intent. I think the intent was, we're kidnapping you and we'll kill you if you try to escape, and we'll kill you if you don't do what we want. Give us this information about Robert, or
what information
used
would
as a
be
bargaining
useful?
chip. I don't know. That was kind of an afterthought for me. I always thought it was because he was valuable as a ransom to the Lannisters.
Well, if it's information, I mean, any kind of information that Tyrek would have had pretty much would have been made completely useless once Lancel joins the Faith and, sort of confesses all of his sins about Cersei and things like that. I mean, he may have had information about Cersei fucking Lancel, but
Lancel's an idiot. When he's confessing everything that he knows, he's confessing everything that he thinks is significant that he knows. Maybe Littlefinger wants to know something about Robert that Lancel would think at the time was insignificant.
Such as?
I don't know. I'm stretching
The code
here,
to the
guys.
safe.
Come on, cut me a break.
Maybe like a listing of brothels he's visited or something like that.
Yeah, maybe something having to do with his bastards or something like that. When Lancel's confessing to the Faith, he's confessing all the stuff that he's done wrong. So he's saying, oh yeah, I fucked Cersei. Oh yeah, Robert was bad, and things like that. He's not thinking about, okay, these are potentially compromising bits of info about Robert. Why would the Faith want to know that anyways? He's willing to say anything, but he doesn't think to say those things.
Huh.
The only thing that would make me side with it maybe not being Littlefinger, because that makes it, I don't know, the fact that Preston Greenfield died and who else got kidnapped, that would make sense. But the only thing that would stir me away from that would be if they were trying to kidnap Sansa, when the Hound saves her, they were about to be pretty violent with her. I think, if I'm trying to bring up the passage. I can't find it, but
I think it was in the show, not the.
Is that just the show?
Because I think
No,
so.
I think it was in the books as well. That they were
was it?
going to. Weren't they going to rape her?
I think
That's
so,
the-
and that's what would make me think, like, yeah, I can see some people, like, you know, if Littlefinger paid someone, like, hey, go kidnap that girl, and you're some poor flea-bottom person, and get all violent before it happened. But I think if you're Littlefinger and you're trying to kidnap Sansa, that's probably, like, the number one thing. You're like, and you realize everyone dies if she's hurt, right? Like,
Right.
No, it would be something like along the lines of they act like they're going to rape her and then drag her off in an alley and then actually kidnap her. You know, if they're just flat out kidnapping her, everyone's going to know that she was kidnapped. Whereas to the other people in the party, like to Joffrey and Cersei and people, if she gets dragged off into an alley somewhere and never shows up again, they'll just assume she was killed and raped and stuff.
yeah, that's a good point. That is a possibility.
You know, if you're trying to kidnap them, you're not going to make it obvious that you're kidnapping them.
Come with me if you want to live.
Oh boy.
Just to throw my 2 cents in, I think Tyrek definitely had some motive, for sure, based on probably the bitterness that Tyger, his dad, had towards Tywin for being just constantly living in his shadow. I think that's the description Jenna gives us, and maybe that kind of passed down to him. So he, an opportunity was presented by someone. I can definitely see him taking that.
Good point.
That's true.
He also might not be too thrilled about being betrothed to Esmeralda Hayford, who's like literally a child at this
2
point.
years old.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like the other people in King's Landing joke that he's the wet nurse. So yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty shitty life if you're Tyrek.
Yeah.
Well,
then
he
can
thinks
be
that now,
ruling the
getting made
West.
fun of by teenagers, but when he's like 30 and has a hot 20-year-old wife, it's probably going to be okay.
I agree. He'd be very discontent with where he is. He's like stuck being a squire for the most gross, rude king ever, and betrothed to a 2-year-old. That's not a happy life he's living.
I also think it's entirely possible. I mean, let's just say I think it sounds like Littlefinger, more of a Littlefinger move to make. He can have this plan to take Tyrek, but Sansa getting attacked or almost raped it wasn't part of the plan. Maybe it was just I'm going to start a riot and some other shit's going to happen as a result of it. He creates this chaos, but usually just for one purpose, and then there's fallout from that.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I think it's interesting. George isn't very big into naming who did it when mysterious stuff like this happens, and he specifically says Varys did it, and Littlefinger wasn't there either. So I think that's pretty damning.
Well, that's Jaime sort of puzzling it out later on down the road, but he doesn't actually fully puzzle it out. He's like, well, I think it might have been either Littlefinger or Varys. Neither of those guys were there, but he never just connects all the dots or anything like that.
Well, and it's worth mentioning later when Tyrion is puzzling it out, he throws out Littlefinger as a possible candidate later when he's thinking about it, and Tyrion is about the most truthful point of view that we have in the books.
Oh, I don't know
He's
about
almost
that.
always right. Tyrion's an excellent appraiser. He's usually really good at judging what's going on around him and giving the reader a good view.
Not in the later books, just a drunk bastard.
Yeah.
Like, he's always a drunk bastard.
But he's not a miserable drunk bastard. That's the difference. Like the first couple books, he's like that happy drunk that and then like the later books, man, he's like that poor unfortunate slob of a drunk that you unfortunately have seen.
Imping ain't
Yeah,
easy.
in dance he's pretty reprehensible. It's like, oh, where'd that fun Tyrion go? That was kicking ass. No, he's just awful.
I still quite like him. He's got a dark side, He's still. I mean, he's just, instead of making everyone laugh with his jokes, he just makes everyone cry and hate
He's
him.
like Kylo Ren.
Oh.
Little the light side, little the dark
never
side,
left
kind of
me.
sulky.
Outstanding hair.
Well, that's Jon Snow that has Kylo Ren hair.
Oh boy.
Confirmed.
So what? Sorry, I might have missed a little bit of that. Was it? So he's going to be used as a catchpole by Littlefinger to rule the West.
Yeah, I
that
don't
right?
know if cat's paw is the term, but cat's paw is like a murderer, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like an assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A tool.
he might be used as a quasi-ruler or a puppet
vassal.
ruler for Littlefinger.
Yeah, I mean, because I would agree with that. I was thinking it was Varys, but I actually think this may have convinced me that it's Littlefinger, because it fits his whole MO of everything else he does. Like, they talked about how he made so much money. Like, part of what he would do was buy lace from Mirish lace, store it, dye it, and then sell it back to other people. So, like, what he's doing with Sansa is he's taking in Sansa, dyed her, she's making it a whole new person, ready to reveal again later. He could be doing the same thing with Tyrek, taking it, dyeing it, sending it back out later.
Yeah, he's always an investor. I think that's kind of key to his character, is everything he does is an investment for later. He's making these lords indebted to him, and he doesn't necessarily have a plan right now for what he wants them to do, but he's going to sit on it for a couple years, and maybe when he needs their help later, he'll do it then. And the same thing with Tyrek. He has an opportunity to kidnap a Lannister, and he takes it. I
don't know. It just seems too far removed from the actual, investment scheme for Littlefinger, because all of his schemes seem to be really well plotted. Like, I'm going to invest money in this because I know if I do this a little bit later on down the road, I can multiply my money. Or, I'm going to, grab this person because I know politically or socially I can build up the value of that person or their social capital and then, use them later on to a better effect. And with Tyrek, at the point in time he snags him, unless he actually really does foresee all of the Lannisters getting offed one at a time, including Lancel, including Kevin, I just don't see it happening. I mean, that's why I think it pays off more for Varys to grab Tyrek, because if his endgame is wait it out, off Lannisters conveniently, frame Tyrion, then, hey, it works out really, really, really well for him, especially when you consider how Kevin Lannister gets killed. Kevin gets a crossbow bolt, and then a bunch of children stab him with daggers. Now, that's going to just drive Cersei insane, because she's going to think that Tyrion's back in the keep, shot another relative, and didn't finish the job, and then, since it's children, they're going to be short like Tyrion, so the stab wounds would probably reflect somebody of Tyrion's height cutting down her uncle. So I think it's got to be the Spider as opposed to Littlefinger.
Why would Varys foresee this succession, but Littlefinger can't? It's just as likely that Littlefinger was betting on Stannis coming to King's Landing and Renly coming to King's Landing and killing everybody at that point. So he's already got Myrcella, Joffrey, and Tommen out of the way, and then all he's got between him is Kevin, Lancel. Keep forgetting his name, and Lancel, and he tries to kill Lancel then in the attack. Lancel gets injured, so he was trying to kill off Lancel, and then all he's got to deal with is Kevin, and he can have Kevin murdered later. It's a perfect investment. If Varys can plan all this stuff into the future, if he has Kevin or if he has Tyrek, why can't Littlefinger? He's just as future sighted, if not more so.
I don't know.
Hard to say. Do you think possibly maybe Littlefinger planned the riot and then Varys got word of it and thought, "Oh, this is my chance to grab Tyrek"? Because I can certainly see Littlefinger taking this as a chance to snag Sansa. That absolutely makes sense.
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that they both had plans during the riot. There's all of these different things that go on at the same time during the riot. Maybe some of them are Littlefinger and some of them are Varys and stuff, but to me it makes a lot of sense if Littlefinger did it, especially considering that he knows things and his men know things that they shouldn't know by the time they get to Highgarden. They have no business knowing that there was a riot, and they have no business offering up a slot on the Kingsguard to Loras. Because for all that Loras knows at this point, it'll be 40 years or 30 years until Barristan kicks it from old age or something.
Not necessarily.
Barristan's already out.
Yeah, exactly. Plus,
so the Hound. So he's waiting on 7 young guys to die, 7 relatively young guys to die. Why would they offer that when Loras is valuable as a marriage proposal to all sorts of different people? It only makes sense if Loras is young. Yeah, but he's still a third son of the Tyrells. They can use that to, marry him to a Fossaway, marry him to a high tower.
Yeah, but Loras also is really that's sort of like his dream in life. Jaime even comments that he sees like a lot of himself when he was younger in Loras Tyrell. So I could see Loras just really, really wanting this all his life, and then okay, well, you're the third son, so sure.
But he wouldn't get to choose, and assuming that Littlefinger didn't know about the riot and the death of the Kingsguard, his offer is that Loras sits around for 20 or 30 years and does nothing, and then becomes a Kingsguard eventually. And the person who's deciding this is Mace Tyrell or Olenna, and they would much rather use him for some political alliance than they would wait 30 years to give him his boyhood dream,
I don't know, the way the Kingsguard were dropping like flies there for a while.
Yeah.
It might only be like, there's 7 right now, but just wait until next week. Like 1 or 2 of them will be dead. Don't worry about it.
He did it for Preston Greenfield. and Varys did it for Tyrek.
Maybe. Like I said, it could be a combination of both. But if I had to pick one, I'd definitely put my money on Littlefinger.
Yeah, I'd say I could believe that. That Littlefinger planned the whole thing, pissing people off, got them all ready to throw poo at Joffrey, and then Varys sort of just heard about this and was like, oh, I'll get involved in that. I can do some shit.
Yeah, and like I said, the gold cloaks did nothing to stop this. The lady just walked right through them, and she could barely carry her baby. And the gold cloaks just moved out of the way. If the gold cloaks are in on it, that really screams Littlefinger.
I don't know, to be fair, if I saw somebody walking around with a dead baby, I'd step aside too, so...
Yeah, but their job is to keep people out, And any riot would be better planned if you had the gold cloaks in on it at the time too,
Well, you could end it at any moment you decided.
Right.
Well, but 9 of them were killed, so...
Yeah, tells them that they have a chance to die and says whoever lives gets 100 dragons or something like that. A lot of guys would be willing to do that. That, and there's something like 5,000 gold cloaks. There's a shit pile of them.
Yeah, but they're not all there, during the royal procession back to the keep. They're, marching their way through the streets, so, they definitely got a chance to pick where it happened. So they could have picked it just as easily a spot where that person could have made their way past.
I'm saying that if he has 5,000 gold cloaks to choose from, he'll be able to find maybe 100 who are willing to do this for a bonus,
Oh, gotcha.
So is Littlefinger already on his way to Bitterbridge to meet with Renly?
Allegedly, yeah.
Okay, so if he had this emotion, then he'd go there knowing that he has this bargaining chip.
Right.
Okay.
One thing that'd be a little weird about the gold cloak thing, how would they know? If they're gonna plan a riot, they all get together with this lady whose baby has been dead, and they're like, "Your baby died? Okay, keep that for 5 days because we're gonna have a riot, and we need you to throw it at the queen, and that's what's gonna start everything."
She doesn't throw the baby. She does let it drop like a sack of shit though, which is kind of interesting. It makes me think it's almost maybe not a baby. She's just got a swaddle with a brick in it or something. Because it would be very uncharacteristic for a mother who has a dead child that she's mourning over to just drop it when she's yelling at the queen.
Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be her baby. If it's all part of some plan, then a mama's farce, as it were.
Yeah, it's all fabricated. It's not actually her dead baby. She's just someone meant to incite the riot.
Hey guys, I gotta take off.
All right, Matt.
All right.
Good chatting with you guys. Talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
And we bid adieu to Daario Naharis.
Goodbye. So much fell into place for Littlefinger while this happened. Whereas a lot of these things don't make sense for Varys. Why would Varys have Preston Greenfield killed? Why would Varys have Lancel Lannister injured? Why would Varys organize people to try and take Sansa, or try to attack Sansa if you don't think he's taking her? All these different things that don't make sense for Varys, but absolutely make sense for Littlefinger.
I think it does make sense for Varys in the sense that, one of his ultimate goals is to sort of destabilize the realm so that when Aegon comes back eventually, he's welcome with open arms, as opposed to, just keeping everything steady and stabilizing the realm. That way, when Aegon shows up, he's showing up as a scumbag conqueror who's tearing everything apart.
Yeah.
So, that's the reason why he offed Kevin Lannister was Kevin was starting to get things going in the right direction, and he couldn't have any of that. So, to me, that kind of makes sense.
Well, you're either assuming that he's trying to off Lancel Lannister because that would make things more unstable, or that was just a happenstance. That the crowd just happened to go after Lancel. I think there's all these different things that happened during the riot, and all of them make sense if Littlefinger orchestrated it, and about half of them make sense if Varys did.
Well, if you grab Tyrek, you don't need Lancel, so yeah.
I wonder how much of it was just a coincidence, maybe Varys or Littlefinger, or both, being the little political masterminds that they are, could just kind of foresee with the way things were going in the realm, and then you have this mass public showing of the royal family sending off Myrcella to Dorne, that's probably where a fire is going to get instigated somehow, and they made their plans not necessarily to make the riot, but just assumed something big would happen soon and had steps in place ready to go for when that kind of erupted.
Right. They didn't pay off 1,000 people to go riot. They paid off a couple of people to be the spark. They knew that the city was ready to just flip its shit. Well, and whoever threw that shit at Joffrey had a hell of an arm. If they're thrown from a roof and they can hit the king square in the face first try. God damn. Got Brett Favre sitting up there.
Maybe they had to practice for a while.
They rehearsed.
Yeah.
Who was the poor person who was
Just be some
Joffrey for
rock
the
hard
rehearsals?
I think
Some
if you're
kid-
from Fleet Bottom, hitting somebody with shit from a roof is like one of the first things you learn how to do.
Necessary skills.
It just, that kind of comes with the territory.
I like imagining that they had some kid on a horse go down the street over and over again, and this guy was just winging shit at the kid. Made sure they hit him in the face like 10 times in a row before they were ready for Joffrey.
Okay, so are we all good on this?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, does anybody else have anything else, or anyone else they want to go over?
I have one tiny thing that I kind of got reminded of halfway through. It's kind of like a more overall, where are they now, I guess.
Okay.
Here's a question. So, Varys has been he's basically been using little kids as spies and as his little birds for a while. He was using them as, I can't remember what they called them when he was in Essos.
Little mice.
Yeah.
Little mice, yes. So he's been doing this for a while now, and he's obviously willing to kill people who know too much. So how many kids has he had, and for how long? And then what happens, because he can only use them when they're children. So what does he do with them when they're not useful to him anymore? He's not going to just, like, get them an internship at some tavern and then they become a bar owner. Like, oh yeah, I doubt that there's a big plan for that. So is there, like, an army of dead, murdered children that Varys and Illyrio have that they're not just going to let them all grow up?
I always thought that's what was implied, that he let him work for him for a few years and just offed them.
That's a good question. I have absolutely no idea. I don't think anyone's ever brought that up before. Huh.
There's one of those, like,
Yeah, I mean,
Is it
random
Westerosi Fagin?
Yeah, I mean, he's got all these kids who can read, can write, and are, they might know compromising state secrets. And you could say, oh, well, if they're working in a tavern somewhere, no one's going to believe them. But why take the risk? Just kill them.
Yeah, and then after,
There's always-
it's like he's basically training them to be super little ninjas, so he can't have them running around knowing all the things that they know and who told them to do it, who trained them how to do it. They're going to end up realizing eventually, like, who's having all this impact. Like, if I was told to read 50 letters from Tywin Lannister and then Tywin Lannister got shot with the crossbow in the bathroom one night, and be like, you eventually, somebody's going to figure something out. Varys knows that, so I guess he just literally is killing 14-year-olds constantly.
I mean, if I were him, I wouldn't have the same kid spying on the same person over and over again. That would be kind of dumb. I would rotate him around. So, spy on Tywin, spy on someone over in Essos, spy on, Ned Stark. I'd move them around so that they never got the full picture of what they were looking at. That way only Varys really knows what's going on.
That's a good point.
But then, at the end, they still know little tidbits about all sorts of people, and you have them killed,
Yeah, but also, if
What?
you're a kid who has no tongue and can only write, how are you going to communicate your state secrets to somebody? I mean, these kids are all...
Well, Wex does it.
Yeah, but it takes him a long time to start coaxing stuff out of Wex. Like, it took him a while to figure out, like, that he could write and stuff like that. And didn't they have to teach Wex how to write?
Yeah, they had
No,
to,
I think-
but it didn't take him that long.
I think they said
Yeah,
at the beginning...
like, basic 1 blink for yes, 2 blinks for no, and then tried to teach them letters.
I think they said at the beginning that someone explicitly says that he's illiterate, but I don't know if we can believe them.
Well, he was Theon's
Maybe
squires.
that's what Varys does. Maybe he cuts out everyone's tongues.
Well, he does that. It specifically said
Wait,
that
does
he
he?
does that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
little birds don't have any tongues.
Yeah.
Yeah, he cuts out all the little birds' tongues.
Ah.
So then
But-
he just sends them all to Euron's ship, and so that's what their plan is afterwards.
That's it.
They work in King's Landing for a while, and then they all get shipped to a boat.
That big guy who blew the horn, that was like the biggest little bird ever.
That was
Big
Varys'
bird.
first.
I like that.
You'd think somebody would notice that if there was, like, one little kid without a tongue running around, like, the Red Keep, you'd be like, man, that kid's kind of weird. But one day you would eventually notice, like, there's, like, 3 or 4 of these little kids, and none of them have tongues.
Well, they never get seen. They're not like working in the kitchen or something as a second job. They're running around the tunnels. They never get spotted.
I thought he had people doing that, but the way I interpreted it is most of them were, like, the little kids who were, like, pot scrubbers and stuff who no one paid attention to anyway. And then he would just, like, they would overhear random crap or, like, grab a letter and look at it when no one's paying attention and then go report back, as opposed to, like, sneaking and never being seen ever.
Well, I think we get some insight when Arya's at Harrenhal how, kids can just be ignored completely. So it's entirely possible that they are just, they've got cupbearers or as you say, pot scrubbers. I don't know.
Yeah, that was my original interpretation, and that he maybe has a couple of them that are particularly good at like climbing and being sneaky, and he probably sends them in at night. But I didn't.
Yeah, like the tunnels Tyrion kind of climbs around, and I think there's a comment like he can almost hear them breathing or something like that because he's just so close.
People do hear them in the tunnels. Like I think Cersei actually hears people in the tunnels outside her room.
Yeah.
Part of what contributes to her going batshit.
Yeah.
Because she thinks it's Tyrion. She's like, there's someone in the walls. And it turns out there is.
Well, when Tywin gets killed, she starts having the guys tear down the walls of the Tower of the Hand, and she starts like finding out how many actual secret passages there are. So, yeah,
Yep.
But it still serves to fuel her paranoia and keep her going. Same thing with the death of Kevin. I mean, a lot of it is just set to make her go even more batshit crazy than she already is. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one then.
The Hound. All right. So the next person we're going to talk about is the Gravedigger, which a lot of people think is Sandor Clegane, and that he's living in a monastery on the Quiet Isle. So while Brienne is speaking to the elder brother at the monastery, the elder brother seems to know an awful lot about the mind and soul of Sandor Clegane. Probably too much for only having briefly spoken to Sandor if he died. The elder brother says, I did. You would have pitied him as well if you had seen him at the end. I came upon him by the trident, drawn by the cries of his pain. He begged me for the gift of mercy, but I am sworn not to kill. Instead, I bathed his fevered brow with river water, and gave him wine to drink, and a poultice for his wound. But my efforts were too little and too late. The Hound died there in my arms. It is true, then, she said dully. Sandor Clegane is dead. He is at rest. I see. Brienne did not know why he was telling her all of this, or what else she ought to say. Do you? He leaned forward, his big hands on his knees. If so, give up this quest of yours. The Hound is dead, and in any case, he never had you or Sansa Stark. And I think that's really interesting that the elder brother never says that Sandor Clegane is dead. He says he is at rest when Brienne says he's dead. And he says twice that the Hound died. The Hound died there in my arms, and the Hound died. Yeah, so I think he's talking about that aspect of Sandor's personality. The fearsome warrior died.
Yeah, he seems really intent on not specifically saying Sandor, like to kind of keep it a little ambiguous.
Right. And then there's some other evidence for this. So when Brienne is riding up to the monastery, she notices that the Gravedigger is there, and he is a huge guy, much bigger than Brienne. And there are only a few people that are bigger than Brienne, and Sandor is listed as one of them. The Gravedigger, along with the other novices, wears a scarf that covers his face, and it would have been able to hide his burns from Brienne if she would have noticed them. And the Gravedigger has a healing injury similar to the one that Sandor received fighting at the crossroads with Arya. So it seems very, very likely that he's the same guy. On the upper slopes, they saw 3 boys driving sheep, and higher still they passed a lich yard where a bigger brother than Brienne was struggling to dig a grave. From the way he moved, it was plain to see that he was lame. And Brienne, as they're walking by, notices the Gravedigger bend down to pet a dog, which is it's probably a little nod from George R.R. Martin to the readers saying, hey, 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 it's a hound. Later, the elder brother says, I buried him myself. I can tell you where his grave lies, if you wish. I covered him with stones to keep the carrion eaters from digging up his flesh, and set his helm atop the cairn to mark his final resting place. That does kind of make it sound like he's actually dead. A lot of people think that maybe he's just talking about the armor, or he's, again, speaking metaphorically about Sandor having died, and he made a cairn for that part of the Hound's personality. Another damning piece of evidence that it's Sandor who's on the island is that his horse is there, Stranger, which has been renamed to Driftwood. They talk about that the horse is not calming down, and Brienne specifically talks with several of the brothers on the island about the horse, and they're saying that the horse is tortured and it's not finding its peace, even though it's done with war. A lot of people think that the Hound is alive and that he might come back into the story at some point. Perhaps there will be a Clegane Bowl, where in Cersei's trial by combat, Sandor Clegane will fight Gregor.
What does everybody think about that? Will we have Clegane Bowl?
I think I'm pretty hype about it.
I think they might have it in the show, though.
Yeah, I think they'll do it in the show, but I don't think they're going to do it. I think it's just showing that the Hound's at peace and he's finally getting his better life from before. So I think like everybody wants it to happen, but I don't think it'll happen in the books.
But also, technically, it wouldn't really be Clegane Bowl because Gregor Clegane's not really Gregor Clegane anymore. He's Robert Strong. So
Same with the Hound.
I don't think it would really be the sort of ending that the Hound would want. He's not really fighting his brother. He's fighting a sort of Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
think
it'd be fucking awesome.
Yes, it would. I actually wrote an opinion for this on the Supreme Court of Westeros website. This was one of the questions for the week, and I don't think Sandor will figure into the story anymore, just because he's described several times throughout the chapter as being lame, and he limps around, and he's barely able to move around, much less fight. So I think if he can't fight, he's not much use to anybody, even if he is still alive. I think the whole point of him being nodded to here is that you get some kind of peaceful ending for him in the story. The only two ways I could see him figuring back into the story would be either fighting Gregor or going to swear his sword to Sansa. But if he can't fight, he's not worth anything, really.
I have a crackpot theory that Sansa and the Hound will eventually end up there together because Sansa...
I totally agree with it.
Because
We haven't even heard it. How can you agree with it?
I'm totally on board.
On it.
I'm fully with you.
100%.
No, because there's so much religion related to Sansa throughout the novels. She's constantly praying for getting out of King's Landing and to both the old gods and the new. So I feel like eventually she'll just end up there where she can finally be at peace, and then it'll be her and the Hound, and it'll be the Sand.
You know, there's a theory that a lot of what Littlefinger is trying to do is recreate the story of Bael the Bard, and that he's obsessed with it, and that Sansa is his queen of love and beauty, and that he's going to try to become king in Harrenhal and have her be his queen. And this would kind of figure into that, your theory there. If she managed to escape or something, or if Baelish died, then that's fairly close to this Quiet Isle, and she could go spend the rest of her days there.
Yeah. But I think the other thing is, I think everyone's so hype about Clegane Bowl, and I think we already got our quote-unquote Clegane Bowl with Oberyn and the mountain fighting. I feel like that was our big hype fight scene that we all wanted, and I think that's what we're gonna get.
No, there's no way that Cersei's not going to throw Clegane, or the Mountain, or Franken Mountain, I guess we should call him now, out as her champion. That's definitely going to happen. So if it's not going to be Sandor, who's it going to be? Because the Faith has to stick somebody out there. So who's it going to be?
It's going to be a trial by 7.
I don't think it's going to be Sandor, sadly. As much as I think Clegane Bowl is going to happen, I don't think it's going to happen as part of the trial by 7, or not, the trial of 7 thing, because he can't really fight right now. Everyone's going to know that. And if the whole Quiet Isle is supposed to be this big mission of making him at peace and not this cold-blooded killer, they're not immediately going to turn to him if you're putting someone through rehab, you don't put them back on drugs a week in just because it would be convenient.
You suck at digging graves. Here, try some sword skills. Maybe that'll make you feel better.
Waving whiskey.
I can see how it kind of adds to George's whole... It would, literally, okay, his whole life he wanted to kill his brother and it was going to be... But no, now his brother is dead, actually, and he has lived this whole life where he doesn't want to fight anymore. So I could see a situation where he, got put into where he had to, because that would be the whole ironic thing. Now that you've found peace, we're going to make you do the thing that you wanted forever anyway.
You want to hear another crackpot theory?
Sure.
What if Jaime somehow survives what's probably going to happen to him later? He comes back, Cersei chooses, or the Faith chooses him as the person to fight the Mountain, and he ends up dying. I feel like it'd be interesting if they did that, to just play with Cersei.
I don't think...
What do you think is going to happen to Jaime? You said he survives what's probably going to happen?
No, well, isn't Brienne leading him to,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Stoneheart.
Yeah.
Brienne could be the champion.
That's true.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I think it has to be somebody within the Faith. And my best guess is it's going to be Lancel who steps up to the plate.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd get his ass kicked.
I know, and that's going to be the best part about it. It's going to be David Goliath, and Goliath is just going to stomp all over him. But I think Lancel has like a really good. It is. But I think Lancel has actual reasoning to think that he can actually pull it off, and that's he was physically there. He knows the crimes that Cersei's committed. When she's saying she's innocent of certain things, he's going to think, oh, okay, well, I was there, and I know for a fact that you're guilty. So, since I know you're guilty, it doesn't matter who you stick out there on the field, because the gods are on my side. They know the truth. With divine intervention, I'm going to whoop his ass, whoever it is. And, you're going to pay for your
And then
crimes.
here comes Robert Strong.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think,
But no, if
I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be the big test as to whether or not the High Sparrow turns out to be actually faithful or like secretly cunning like some people think. If he's actually just a super faithful, zealoty madman, then yeah, I can see him picking somebody like Lancel. Like, no, he's pure of spirit, and we know he's guilty. Go out there. But that's going to be the big test to be able to tell. Like, who he chooses is going to decide whether or not he's a political conniver or really faithful. If Lancel offers to do it, being the big faithful guy, and he knows he's guilty, and he lets him, and he's still a little hesitant, like, maybe let's pick the big guy, then I don't think faith has anything to do with it.
As long as we're in the podcast about who is who, have you heard the theory that the High Sparrow was Howland Reed?
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
no.
But if you'd like to
I
go,
like it, though.
but if you'd like to go over it, go for it.
Wait,
Oh,
can
God, I
I say
don't
one more
remember
thing
enough.
about? Sorry,
Yeah, go
can I
ahead.
say one thing about Jaime being the champion, just to conclude it?
Sure.
If he did do it, and if he was the winner, he would be technically killing Cersei if he were to beat the Mountain. So he would be the Valonqar.
Oh, good point.
Ooh.
Very good point.
Ooh.
And then Bran's vision in the Game of Thrones has to do with the Golden Knight, and then the one with the visor with the blackness leaking out of it. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember the words.
Yeah. It's
Well,
like a stone knight or something like that without a head.
Ooh. I like it.
But I always envision the way that this trial is going to turn out is that the Faith is going to say a trial by 7 or a trial of 7, and Cersei's not going to be able to come up with enough people. She won't have 7 people who are willing to get killed.
I don't know. I mean, because the Kingsguard will have to step forward. I mean, there's some pretty shitty members of the Kingsguard, like in King's Landing right now. So I mean, you can probably get 3 of them out of that, but another 4 people, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, are the Kettle Blacks willing to die for this? I mean,
Well, the one that's being tortured clearly isn't willing to die for this. Cause,
yeah. I mean, I don't think Cersei has anybody who's truly faithful to her, except for maybe the zombie Robert Strong. When it comes to putting their lives on the line for her, the Kingsguard don't have to because she's the Queen Regent, not the Queen. And I don't think she has enough people to defend her. I don't think she could come up with 7. Or if she could, it would be 3 knights and 4 household guards or something, and the Faith would put up 7 knights and just whoop the shit out of them.
Well, while we're on the subject of this, when Robert Strong first comes around, isn't he described as having a lot of the 7-pointed star on his armor and things like that, and a lot of symbolism related to the Faith? So, I mean, wouldn't it be quite, in a dark way, funny if they chose him and suddenly Quaithe betrayed Cersei and she ended up having to choose Boris Blount or someone like that?
Yeah, he has
That'd be great.
He has the plumes on his helmet that are the 7
Yeah.
different colors, and I hadn't thought of this before. Can the Faith call on any knight since they're all technically warriors of the Faith?
I think you can call on anybody, but they don't have to say yes.
Couldn't they be stripped of their knighthood then if they didn't come to represent the Faith?
I'm not sure. I don't think that's
Yeah,
ever been a thing.
Because it's a really
Well,
big
another-
deal throughout the books that they're from the church. They're with the holy waters or something are used to anoint them.
I don't know if they could have a 7-on-7 trial, because before, when they're in the cell, they were saying she would only be allowed to be defended by a member of the Kingsguard.
Right. That's
And
the
now,
tradition.
So they couldn't
No,
do. They would have to have
it's-
all 7 of the Kingsguard, and Loras is apparently on Dragonstone, burnt to shit. Jaime is in the Riverlands without a hand. What is it? 2 of the other kings with how many Kettle Blacks were in the Kingsguard and now are accused in the crimes with her?
I think just the one was in the Kingsguard.
They
Yeah.
were accused. Yeah, one's in the Kingsguard.
So I don't even know if they would let him defend her if she's like involved in the trial, or if he's involved.
I don't think so.
And then Balon Swan's in Dawn.
Yep.
And Ares is dead, and they haven't appointed anybody to replace him yet.
They got
No,
Robert
they were
Strong.
appointed Robert Strong. That's how he was able to.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Even though they didn't really know about that at first. But anyway. Oh wait, no, that was the show. I got that confused.
Who's the 7th? If there's Boris Blount is 6. 7 is...
It's Loris, Kettle Black, Jamie, Swan.
Okay, so it's Jaime
Well-
Lannister, Loras Tyrell, Osmond Kettleblack, Balon Swan. Oh, everyone's favorite,
Meryn
Sir
Trant.
Meryn Trant.
Hey!
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That dick.
Boris Blount, who's the poison taster and is now fat and out of shape. And then, yeah, Robert Strong, and then Oakhart.
I'd feel so great if I had those 7 guys protecting me.
Well,
So
and
secure.
Meryn isn't Meryn Trant off in ASOS, or is that just in the show?
No, they sent, spoiler alert, they sent, isn't it in the Mercy chapter? You see who they send with the guy who coughs a lot, Harris Swift or whatever his name is, I don't know.
That's Giles Rosby, who coughs a lot, but they do send
Giles Rosby,
they do
that's
send
it.
Swift. Swift gets
Oh,
sent.
is it Swift and not Rosby? Okay, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
Rosby dies.
Yeah, Sir Meryn's still
yeah.
in King's Landing.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Clegane Bowl, is it a go or a no go?
I'm gonna say no
I'm
go.
still hype.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Clegane Bowl gets replaced with the butchery of poor little bastard who never got a chance throughout the whole thing. Like, he went from having one shit job to another shit job to another shit job to an even worse shit job to, okay, I give up on this, I'm gonna try something new in my life, to, oh, yeah, I guess I could make amends and represent the faith. This is the right thing to do. Splat! So, no, I think the Mountain versus Lancel, soon to be the Mountain standing over the stain that used to be Lancel.
It could,
The only
I don't know, you never
redeeming-
know. It could be a nice romantic ending. He gets the girl, Cersei loves him, and, kills the giant.
The only redeeming factor in his whole life is that he gets to screw the queen.
But it's his cousin, it's not even good.
No, it's not.
If he does it, I just hope that he's as confident and like pretentious in the way he talks about it, like he is with Jaime when he's at Derry. I just hope he has a big speech and a spiel about how the father is going to protect him, and then just like one super crunch, done, cut in half, over. I want it to be
Get stomped.
unceremonious, anticlimactic, just over.
The whole thing's like a paragraph long.
A 2-page monologue by Lancel and then a 1-sentence smush.
If
He
Robert
was a
Strong was a
sword
Mortal
that- no-
Kombat character, all of his moves would be fatalities.
Yeah, yeah.
Just push A, fatality. It's over.
I can see it now. The member of the faith who has to preside over the trial, lets them both go, and like at the start of the fight, he yells, "Finish him!"
In all seriousness,
Smush.
though, I don't think the Faith would risk losing Lancel. I mean, he's so vital to their case against Cersei. So if they see, she's got this badass protecting her, surely they'd want to keep every weapon they have against her. And Lancel's a big one.
Well,
I think if they're truly faithful, then if they're practicing what they preach and there's nothing going on behind the curtain, then I can see them being like, no, we know for a fact Cersei's guilty. There's no way he can die because we all really, really, really believe.
Yeah, it'll be a test of their faith if Robert Strong wins, because they've heard from 2 different people that Cersei's banging other people. So she's already basically proven guilty. So if Robert Strong wins, they'll have to throw that aside and go, oh, they must have been lying. That's what the truly faithful would do. But I don't know if that would happen.
Yeah, the gods will her to live on, so therefore.
That would be a fun moment, like if Lancel doesn't fight him, but he's present at the trial when Sir Gregor or Robert Strong wins. He knows for a fact what she's being accused of happened, and if he sees his faith just get shattered and bloodied in front of him, that'd be a fun little moment to watch him finally break.
You know what could happen is if Lancel is fighting the Mountain, maybe he does get stomped, but before he gets stomped, he manages to knock the Mountain's helmet off and show that he doesn't have a head. Then what happens to the trial? Is that unholy? Is that damning? Or
I guess they call the Red Viper the retroactive winner, and then send a raven to Tyrion to come back. We got this wrong.
Oops.
Maybe
I don't
Lance
think
is the
that's
guy in the
right.
golden armor. Maybe he puts on Jaime's armor and fights him.
There's no way Tyrion would get requited because it's just whoever walks out of the duel alive. And Gregor was still alive, and even though he died later, it would just be the same as if you got injured some other way and it got infected and you died after a duel. It doesn't speak to who was innocent or not.
Yeah, that guy
Yeah.
died first, so he's guilty. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all done with this? Are we moving on?
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you want me to read that YouTube comment, or is it too much?
No, go for it.
I don't agree, I guess, or disagree, because I haven't really read up on any of this, but Adam K. from YouTube commented on the last theory cast, saying, "The ghost of Winterfell is Theon. He is out of his mind. Mel's parents are Bloodraven and Shea Seastar. Lord Karstark will get burned alive, who walks like a cripple, so all the Northmen think it's Theon. Stannis sadly keeps Theon alive for future Ironborn support. Mainly the first one I'm certain of, and yeah. And he's really certain of it. He says you can email him if you want to ask why."
I do buy Theon being insane, and that could be an option.
Yeah.
I'd encourage this person to get on the forums and write out there, because I want to hear more about this. You go on the forums on a podcast of iceandfire.com, I think. We've got a craziest theories thread that I post in more than I should, and you should put that stuff up in there.
Yeah, we're also on Facebook as well under Vassals of Kingsgrave.
I think the Mel's parents one is interesting. I feel like that one, I like that one. I like the idea of that one.
There's a lot of similarity between Shea Seastar and Melisandre.
The only problem with that would be a lot of people think that Mel is a lot older than she actually is.
But that's the glamour.
It's stated, isn't it? Isn't it like 100% confirmed that she's an old hag?
No. I mean, I think it's implied that she has some sort of glamour.
I think maybe something on the show has kind of confirmed something about that, but I don't think that, like, book-wise.
I think it's hinted that, like, she uses some of her ability to maintain her youth, but it doesn't necessarily say that, she's an old crone or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, too, that she's not, like, very, very old and decrepit. She just realizes that for her strategies, it's probably best to come off as, like, the hot, seductress mystic lady. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, like, she's really old and haggard. The glamour could just be to be a hot chick.
I thought that the Shea Seastar, Bittersteel Bloodraven, is kind of a dependent upon all three of those characters being in the equation. It wouldn't make much sense to have Bittersteel be dead now and bring back Shea Seastar. Like, what's the point? She gets with Bloodraven?
Well, he's coming back as a skull covered in gold.
Yeah, that's true. If Aegon is really a secret Blackfire pretender, then the last remaining descendant. What was it? They said all of the male line is wiped out, but so he would be the last of the female line?
Yeah.
I want to do a podcast about Fagon because I really don't think it matters at all. It's the whole theme of the books that power resides where people think it resides, and people are always railing on Aegon because he's supposedly a Blackfire, or maybe he's not anybody. But as long as people believe he's somebody, and as long as he's the most capable leader, he's my choice for who I would like to see on the throne at the end. A lot of people don't like him at all.
That's who I want to win, but that's just because I played too much of the Crusaders King mod, so I'm like very into like all the dynasties have to be perfect and in the right spots.
Okay, well, if that's that, then thank you for joining us.
Wait, we didn't do Euron equals Daario, or not? Did we really do any Daario equals anybody, or?
Oh, Daario equals everybody.
Daario is everybody.
Yeah.
The many-faced god.
You have totally solved it, Noah. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. You're a genius.
Did you guys cover any Quaithe theories?
Yeah, we did the Ashara Dayne equals Quaithe. Any thoughts on that, Noah?
Any crap? No. I don't know. I think no body being found and all that. I think it's very plausible Ashara Dayne is still alive, but who I like the Scepter Lamore idea, but I'm sure there are loads of things why that couldn't be true. How could she get so good at magic so fast? Really?
Well, she has over a decade.
Actually, yeah. Well,
she's got like
that's like 15 years. So
Yeah.
maybe.
So fast isn't exactly. I mean, you can go from high school to having a PhD in less time than that. So I wouldn't exactly call it fast. I mean, I don't know how far along you have to become in sorcery to have your equivalent of a doctorate, but at least good enough to wield the glass candle. Can't be that bad. It's got to be at least like a bachelor's degree.
That's all she worked on that whole time.
Well, then that means the maesters, every single one of them would have less than the equivalent of a bachelor's degree, and they're teaching everybody.
except for Marwyn.
Except for Marwyn.
Yeah, but to be fair, there's not all that many subjects. It's not like modern day where you have like 500 subjects and, half of them you can't get a job in. Plus, if you take out like retrospective and Earth history, would their level of like science and technology and advancement be like 1,000 or so years? So subtract 1,000 years of education and knowledge from what people have to learn now.
Yeah. Their technology is almost perfectly on par with like 1100 AD, except for the armor, which is like 1600s. But
and the whole magic thing.
Yeah, that's
wow. They had plenty of magic back then. How do you know? Were you there?
the dragons are dead. No.
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining, and if you'd like to join on, we are located at podcastofIceandFire.com. We're also located on Facebook and a bunch of other places. If you just Google Vassals of Kingsgrave, and you'll find us. Swipe right on Tinder, or whatever the hell it is, too. So.